All right. Testing. Yes, I think the volume's coming through. I had to kill that wait bot music straight away. So those listening on a replay or live on another stream other than Fireside, yes, that's the wait bot music, not by choice. But, okay, let me bring our guest up for today. Sammy. Invite. Should be there.
I'm here.
There we are.
Hello.
You there?
I am.
All right. Excellent. Let's bring on some video here.
Okay.
That's working there. And Sammy, here we go. Invite to video. All right.
Hello.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm just getting set up here. So we've shared it out to Firesiders. And I asked that anyone that's listening here live on Fireside, if you could share this show, share it out to Firesiders, share it out to fellow people, especially people maybe on the Stereo app that know Sam as well, mutual friends. This is the Rocstedi podcast, episode 46 with Sam Toscano-Watson. That's a very Italian name at the start anyway. And Sammy, this is an interview that we've been meaning to do for a while. I started doing these over on the Stereo app a long time ago, and definitely had you guys on the cards, you and Dave. And at the time when I think it was getting to the pointy end of the stick to do them, I was starting to stop to do them because I came onto Fireside and I could see the future building here. So I thought there'll be the time that comes, and that time is now. So I'm really looking forward to getting into it with you today. First of all, just set the frame for the show real quick. If anyone wants to leave messages here for this show to ask Sam any questions or leave a message on the show, if you're listening here live on Fireside, there is a clickable link on the fortune cookie that will go straight to my Instagram, and you'll be able to leave a recorded voice message, and we'll play that for you on the show. But other than that, Sammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm not nervous at all. I'm so nervous.
The thing is, I know you well, so it's a little more difficult to interview people that I know because you know bits and pieces about them. I don't know a great deal about your past or anything, but I know you guys certainly from last year onwards, and I know you guys intimately from that point, you know, from then till now, because we just hang out so much on from Stereo over to Fireside. You guys have become featured Firesiders, which is fantastic. You're really rocking it with your show, How's Your Day? It's on every Wednesday evening, so we'll get into all that sort of stuff. But what I noticed with you, Sammy, is that you get nervous, then you have your best shows when you're nervous. I think you overcome your nerves pretty quick when that happens. So
I try to.
So, okay. So just welcoming a few more people in the house here. Okay, so we want to share that around if we can. Is Dave even in? Yes. Is Dave? Yes.
He's in. Yeah.
He's in there, yeah. I thought he would have left 5,000 messages by now. I think Dave's more excited than us to have this interview.
I think so too.
He is. All right, Sam. So I guess you kind of know the format. This is what makes it a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you might know where I'm going with things or not, but it's just a natural conversation. It's just really two friends talking here, and two friends that have never met in real life, but we will soon, I'm sure, whenever that trip to America happens, or vice versa. And although I know a lot about you guys in current day, I don't know much about you guys in the past. When I say you guys, I'm uniting you and Dave as a couple, but this is specifically for you. Okay. So if you could take us back, I know you're Italian. I know you had Italian upbringing, and that's about all I know. So let's go right back to where you were born and what life was like for you as a kid.
Sure. Life as a kid was great. I have wonderful parents. I was born here in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. I've lived here my whole life except for a couple of years in my 20s. I lived in an even smaller town in Missouri. But no, life growing up was great. My parents didn't think they could have kids. They got pregnant with me. I was the first grandkid, the first girl, and like in the family. They were excited. They named me after my grandfather. His name's Sam. We were so close.
Salvatore?
Yes. Well, Salvatore, but they call him Sam. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. I was named after him. What else? Life growing up was great. Mom and dad. Dad worked at the phone company. He traveled a lot. We had a stay-at-home mom who was always there. I mean, they were at every game, everything. So it was wonderful. I don't know what else you want to know.
That's okay. We'll dip into it. Basically, your grandparents were born in Italy and they came over to America?
my great grandparents, my Nanu's
Right.
parents were born there. They came over, and actually my great Nanu came over without my Nana. She had my two oldest great uncles, uncle and aunt. And he came over here and actually started another family. And she was like, nope, not happening. And so
They
she
did
came
that back
over
then.
she came over and found him and was like, nope. And they had like a bunch more kids. So my
Right.
Nanu
And
was
what
born
happened?
in the States. So
And the original family, he let go, or you don't know. So you kind of
I
got
don't
some
know.
like half cousins
Probably.
and uncles and stuff out there somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. Your great grandparents came over, because this is what my grandparents came over. We're about the same age. I believe you're 43 this year.
Later this year, yes.
Yep. And I'm 41. I'm 41 soon.
Mhm.
So we're a couple of years apart. So just to show that the generation gap is that, my grandparents are the ones that came over in the 50s to Australia, did the same sort of thing, left. Well, he didn't have another family that I'm aware of, but he certainly, hey, Cunty's in the house. How you doing, Cunty? And so, they'd come over in the 50s, leave their wives behind, start working, start doing things here, then bring their family over. So my father, actually, he was born over in Italy a year later. He came over with my grandmother to Australia, and my grandfather met him for the first time because he was here working. So that was an extra generation gap for you guys over in America, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what about, how many siblings do you have?
I have one. I have a sister. She's 3 years younger than me.
One sister,
So
3 years younger.
yeah,
Okay.
my parents really weren't sure they could have kids. Then they had me, and they were surprised with my sister. And at that point, they were like, "Okay, we've tempted fate. We've got to." So
what have we done? What a mistake. Yeah, I know. Okay, and so life was pretty good at home. When you said your dad worked away a lot, was he going away for like long extended periods of time?
Yeah, I mean, when I was, I don't know, almost my whole life, I can remember like growing up, he would fly out to Denver, which is about 8-hour drive from here. But he would fly out there on a Monday, come home either Thursday night or Friday at some point, and we'd have him on the weekends. And that's just kind of how our life went. So weekends were all dad time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It was nice.
All right, and what was school like for you?
I went to a small private school here in Nebraska, in Omaha. It's a Lutheran school. My uncles went there. I went there from kindergarten through 8th grade. Small school. There was like 10 kids in my 8th grade class. So, I mean, I think 4th through 6th grade, I had
like a real country
teacher.
town, huh?
Kind of. It wasn't,
okay.
though. It was just a small, private Lutheran school. My grandmother was the lunch lady. My mom did, I don't know, all sorts of stuff. she was room mom for like Halloween parties. They were very involved. It was the church we went to. So
interesting. I'm just visualizing what that was like. It's because my son, when we lived in Thailand, he went to school 3.5 years old, started there, and until he was 5. But in his class as well, there was just maybe 10 or 12 kids. Like it was kind of really small, and they were so united and close as little kids. Compared to here, there's like over 100 kids in his class. Like they're split into 3, so it was such a huge change. But you spent most of your primary school, at least, or was it your high school? You said your high school had about 10 students in it.
No, so kindergarten, little kid through about junior high. So I was about 14, and then from there I went on to a public high school, which was a culture shock. I went from 10 people in my class to 500.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So what about academically at school? Was it a pretty easy thing for you, or was
always? Yeah, it
always
was.
An easy thing?
It was always an easy thing. I remember when I was younger, though, I was sick a lot. So I was always had like tonsillitis or something. So I missed a lot of school, but I did well. I didn't really have to be there for notes and things as long as I could. I picked up on things pretty quickly in school.
I suppose as well with a smaller class, more attention's able to be focused on the kids too. If they were missing anything like that, I think that's a huge benefit with the small schools at least as well. Okay, so tell us about how you moved over to high school with the culture shock, because that would have been from such a small school to such a huge amount of people around.
Oh my gosh, I remember my first day because I had never had a locker. I had never been able to, I didn't really know how to get into one. I was so extremely shy, like painfully shy. Seriously. I mean, I literally, we had to have a locker partner. So I took homeroom the first day. I looked at a kid next to me who looked just as scared as I was. And I was like, I guess, do you want to be my locker partner? And he was shorter than me, and I'm not tall. And because I couldn't get in my locker right away, he took the bottom shelf, and I would like pull myself up to like see my books and things. I don't know. It was just crazy.
So you had to have a locker that you'd share with someone. That's what locker partner is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you were pretty shy in high school. Did you eventually start to come out of your shell with that, or was it something that sort of?
Yeah. I mean, I started high school. I ended up in concert choir. We're pretty musical. My mom's always sang. My dad listens to music all the time. I danced, or, ballet, jazz, tap, that sort of thing. So I was in choir. I made it in the biggest, concert choir first year, which was crazy. I had tried out with like Strep Throat, so I could barely sing, but they let me in. I ended up joining all sorts. I mean, I was president of our Latin club because, I was kind of a big old nerd. President of DECA, which is the marketing club, because I was in marketing. I also was on flag team, if you've seen the marching band, it's the girls, twirling the flags and things. But
right. Dave's loving that. So is Katie.
I know.
And Deborah was loving it because of the musical aspect.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're usually musical.
So I have actually heard you belt out a tune or two on Instagram before, and you have got quite a voice. So we'll probably get into that a little bit more, I guess. Did you further anything with your voice once you started to discover that you had this voice that you could sing and be inside the choir and things like that?
Actually in choir, I was really nervous. I learned a lot in my concert choir. We could sight read, music, which, literally is just handing a piece of sheet music to you. And then she'd be like, here's where you start. And then you just sing the thing. So that was a really great experience. My senior year, I was in a all girl show choir. But the only reason I was in that is because she handpicked me instead of me having to try out, because I was always too afraid to try out and sing in front of people. I didn't really find my voice until I was an adult, right. I sang all the time, but I would much rather get up and dance in front of people. I could, because it wasn't singing to me is like showing my soul. Dancing, sure. I just can do and, hide the nerves.
Sure. Okay. So, when you're at school, before we probably leave school, let's touch on did you have any feelings for any little boys at school at this age in your teenhood?
Way too many boyfriends.
Well, I was just asking about feelings for boys, not how many boyfriends. But yeah, okay. Was that around the high school age? I remember, you get the flutters when you see someone walk past and stuff. Did you follow through on meeting anyone at this age, or?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started high school, I started dating this kid whose parents fell in love with me, and I went to his prom. He was a junior, and he was a couple years older than me. I kind of like guys that are older than me. I always have, but he was a couple years older than me, and he was just, I don't know. With him, it was just like he was my first high school boyfriend. The newness wore off pretty quick. He was pretty all over the place. He would I don't know. He would. Anytime he was upset, or if I wasn't paying enough attention to him, he'd make these big dramatic things. We'd be fighting, and then he'd be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna hurt myself," and I'm like, "Nah, I don't think you are." And not that doesn't happen, but he was really just playing a mind game. But his parents fell in love with me, and they thought I was gonna marry him. And I was like, no. So there was that guy. We didn't last that long. I did end up meeting a boy that I actually ended up dating as an adult. He was like kind of first love, so to speak. He was definitely my first sexual encounter. We dated for a while, but my parents made me break up with him. They didn't think he was a good.
They made you break up with him. Okay, well, let's get into that. Why did they make you break up with him?
Well, with him, okay, so he was 18. I was 15 when we first started dating. Turned 16. Right. So he was older. He had actually gotten kicked out of school. The bad guy, the bad boy.
Bad boy, yeah.
Sure. Because, they're always what attracted me for a long time. But with him, I had my first taste of alcohol. The first time I got drunk, I remember being so drunk one night that I threw up all over the back of a rental car. That was crazy. But one night he had been drinking and he had like this blue Malibu bottle. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me have it. And I threw it in my bottom drawer to hide it from my parents. And my mom decided to clean my room, searching for, things. And clues. They found it. Yeah, clues. And they found it and they're like, you have to break up with him. And I'm like, fine. Actually, I was heartbroken. I'm like, I gave my virginity to this guy. I should be with him. In my head, I still have those values of if I did this, we should stay together forever and get married, right? And they were like, no, you have to break up with him. And I was pretty heartbroken. But looking back, it was probably for the better. However, again, I dated him later in life as an adult too.
Okay, so I'm surprised. So they made you break up with him, and you did it even reluctantly, but you still did it. I think I don't know how you would make someone break up. So how did that? I mean, were you more afraid of what your parents would think, or was it, even though it hurt, did you think it was the right thing to do, or how did you follow through on that?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, I think back then I'm a people pleaser. So back then I was such a people pleaser. I needed to be the good girl. My sister at the time was going through a lot of shit. She had was going to an alternative school. She was doing drugs. She was smoking cigarettes already. She's 3 years younger than me, by the way. So she was 13 at the time. Wow. So at that time, she was really going through some stuff, and I wanted to be the good girl because if I am, mom and dad love me more. I don't know what it was, but
sure, it's a thing in your mind as a child, and you want to. Excuse me. I dare say, even at our age now, we still want to please our parents. It doesn't matter how old you get. This is still something that you want to please the value of your parents. Even if they're cool with you not doing it, but to get their recognition is just something that's warming for us. I agree. It doesn't matter what age.
Absolutely, and I mean, I was such a daddy's girl. I mean, it was. I just was, you know what I mean? And my dad is just amazing, man. Not to say my mom isn't amazing. She is too. But at that time, as a teenage girl, my mom was the enemy. Right. But I really still wanted to please them. So I was like, well, if they said I had to, I'm going to. Now, don't get me wrong. I did every once in a while kind of run into him and see him, but I never let it go to the point where we were going to date again because I didn't really want to make my mom and dad mad.
Sure. So. Okay. Good for you. And they were probably right. I don't know what he's like, but we'll find out later on in this story, I'm sure. You said you dated him again. So, okay. So how old were you when you split up then? So you were together for how long, basically?
Okay. So high school terms, it was a long-term relationship. It was like 8 months. You know what I mean? Okay. That's a long time in high school. So I was 16 when we broke up, which,
Okay. Yeah. And you're at school, and school's sort of high school's getting towards the end as well. Did you start to think about what you wanted to do when you left school, career-wise or anything? Or?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, I loved science. I loved math. I slept through physics and aced it. I mean, that was just chemistry was my favorite. I wanted to be a pharmacist actually back in the day. Well, first I wanted to be a brain surgeon, but that was because I would have never done that. I don't think I could, but my grandfather, whom I was named after, died of a brain tumor when I was 11. So, I was like, I'm going to be a brain surgeon and, save everybody who has a brain tumor. Yes.
Yeah.
But I really thought being a pharmacist was something I might do. I was also really good in marketing. So, which makes sense with what I do now. But but so that's kind of what I was doing. But I don't know. Again, still sick a lot in high school. I did my sophomore year, which was the same year I dated that guy that I had to break up with. They thought I had mono 1 year, and they like switched all my classes around. So I would go in the morning and get all my classes in before
what's
noon.
mono?
It's mononucleosis. It's they call it the kissing disease, but it makes you really run down. You get a high fever, sore throat. Turned out I had a really bad case of strep throat. Back in the day, or back then, and this is, I don't know, it's probably not interesting, but back then my tonsils were humongo, so much so that they stopped me from breathing at night. I had sleep apnea at 15 and I was 80 pounds. You know what I mean? So it wasn't something that, it kept causing me to get sick. So there was a lot of school missed, but I still did pretty well because I could take notes and remember things and do really well on tests.
My son had the same thing. He had his tonsils out, just too big. They were almost touching when you looked into his throat. And I also had big tonsils that have been removed from sleep apnea too. So yeah, totally understand. Yeah. I was sick a lot too as a kid. Yeah, until those things came out. What a difference it made. I was 18
when they took mine out. Yeah, it was
awful. Okay. So you wanted to be a brain surgeon, but obviously you didn't go down that track. What started to happen when you left school? Did you finish school and start working, or what did you do?
Okay, so here's where life gets interesting.
Okay.
My senior year, halfway through it, I had senioritis really bad. My last year of high school, I was like, you know what? And my rebellion streak really kind of kicked in right about then. I turned 18 and I thought, you know what? I'm tired of being the good girl. I've been the good girl all this time, so let's do that. So I turn 18, I buy a pack of cigarettes. I don't really smoke them for a while, but then I start really smoking them, and so that's what I try. I start drinking more often. I go to parties where or my best friend at the time, her mom would let us come over to her house, and as long as we didn't leave, we could drink. And so I tried pot for the first time. This is all before graduating. I meet a boy my senior year, and he's a little younger, and he lives in a town about 20 minutes away from us. And we dated for a couple of years. And with him, I really started to rebel. I think I met him when I was about 17, like beginning of senior year, and then for a couple years after. So.
Okay. We have a message from your husband, Dave. He's left a message here, so let's give that a play, and then we'll go into that story. So here we go.
Hey, guys. It's me. I am Dave. Just checking in. Just wanted to say, have a great show. What a great one. You're right. I'm kind of excited about this one. And yes, sweetheart, I love you. And Sam, I love you too. Sorry, Rock, I'm calling you sweetheart now. No, I'm just kidding. This is going to be great. I can't wait. You guys are going to do awesome.
Thanks, Dave. Now, I don't know if you sent that earlier, but it just came through now a minute ago, because I don't know if my internet was playing up, but anyway, it's through now. I don't know how old that was. Thank you, Dave. I love you too, sweetheart. So, all right. So this guy that you met, started to take you off track a little bit. You were with him for 2 years, and you started to want to be that bad girl. Would it be fair to say that you wanted to, you had that feeling of being rebellious to try and get that feeling of living a little, because you were maybe a little bit suppressed by having to be the good girl before? It's like, no, I'm gonna like just do me now instead of trying to impress everyone else. Was that sort of the thought that crossed your mind?
That's exactly what crossed my mind. I was like, you know what? I'm an adult now. You can't tell me what to do, blah, blah, blah. But no, this guy
actually... I'm smoking. Watch this. Yeah. It's like that, yeah.
I mean, my parents found my cigarettes and like, you have to get rid of them. I'm like, I'm 18. I can buy them on my own, So that made me want to smoke. And I really wasn't that big of a smoker back then. It was just to look cool and because I could.
The purpose of it.
Yes.
Yeah. I get you.
A silly story. I was my parents used to let my grandparents smoke in the house. My parents don't smoke; they don't drink. They're very they don't. So my grandma used to smoke in the house. So when they were gone, my sister and I would smoke in the house because they didn't know. You know what I mean? Nana had been there the night before. It didn't matter. But one morning I was getting ready to go to work and I was like, "Hey, do you guys have a cigarette?" And they're like, "Yeah, we have a red though," because I was smoking like ultralights and things. And so they gave it to me and I actually smoked it. I threw up because of the nicotine and it was so bad.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to be that bad girl, but I did end up really going off the rails. So.
All right, well, tell us about that. Tell us what track that took you, because although you want to take that track, it may have shaped you to who you are today. But really, at that young age, being the good girl for so long, you're not ready for the form of what the badness can take you sometimes, right? So it can easily get off track pretty quickly. So tell me the story of how that went about.
Right. So I started dating this guy. He's definitely a bad boy because that's what I'm attracted to at the time. He lives, again, in a town 20 miles away, a small town here in Nebraska. My senior year, his junior year, right before prom happened. So he calls in a bomb threat to his school and from a payphone. And back in the day, I guess it wasn't as big of a deal as it is today here, but he just wanted to get out of class. So I had picked him up from school that day and he's like, "We got to go, blah, blah, blah." I got kicked out. And I mean, it was crazy. So once I graduate,
kicked out by who? By the school or by his parents?
Yeah, they
kicked out of where?
Kicked out of the school. He got expelled for the rest of the year.
Because of the bomb threat?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And I was like, well, that's crazy. And the thing is his parents he really didn't get in trouble. You know what I mean? It's not that I ever had to stop. Yeah, there was not really a consequence. They were just like, whatever. His parents were split. So his dad lived in that small town. And then his mom lived in a town in Iowa, which is about 2.5 hours away from here. And so that summer, I went out to meet his mom. We drove out to meet his mom right after I graduated. Actually, right before I had my tonsils taken out. So right after I graduated, we go out there and I meet his mom. And then I start meeting the friends he grew up with because he didn't always live with his dad. And I had recently started smoking pot a little bit. I never really liked it all that much, but it was the bad thing to do at the time. You know what I mean? And sure. We had gone to his buddy's house. His dad actually, and he didn't know this at the time, his dad is a drug dealer. His buddy's dad is a drug dealer. So we go and we were smoking pot and we're in their garage sitting around an old car that they were restoring. And I'm thinking, I don't feel so hot. What's going on here? And I go, okay, I'll be back. I'm going to go, to the restroom. I was really just going to go splash some water in my face because I was not feeling, it was bad. When
After smoking some pot, you felt like this.
Yeah. And so I start to walk into, the garage was maybe 20 feet from the house. And it felt like the sidewalk, like, extended like to 100 feet.
Tunnel vision almost.
Yeah. I was like, what is going on here? So I made it back out into the garage. And in my head, I'm up, being goofy with everybody, having conversations. Next thing you know, I wake up and I'm on the floor and the guy that I'm dating is like, "Come back to me now. Don't leave me." I had stopped breathing and I passed out. Yeah. And I don't know if it was a combination of needing my tonsils out and that, or if it was laced probably with, whatever. I don't know what it was laced with. I know that when I woke up, it was the worst thing ever. I was so sick and I was hurting for a couple of days. At that point, I was like, never again, not going to even try that stuff again. You know what I mean? Sure. But, going forward with him, he was pretty abusive. He would always, and it starts little, he would always call me stupid. He would, if I said something that contradicted something he said, he would like bend underneath like a table when he was holding my hand, he'd bend my fingers back. He pinched me so hard I had bruises. That's how it started. And with him, I mean, it was a very controlling relationship, but I didn't see it coming because in my, in my head, I had such a great upbringing. My mom and dad had been together since high school. I just never saw the abuse coming. I thought, if you tell me you love me, you're not going to hurt me. What's going on? But by the time he started actually hurting me, he was in my head. You know what I mean? And he was mentally abusing.
Step by step, small increments they get in there. That's what they do, right? And now as a full-grown adult, you can look back and you can see the signs of probably the way his broken home was. His dad's friends are drug dealers. All those little signs are there, right? Sometimes that can put the story together. But as a kid, you don't see that. You can't foresee much past your life where you are now because you're just not experienced enough. And then again, like you said, having a good home that you're from, you have nothing to compare that to except for that's just odd. Like they wouldn't do that, just like you said, right? And then bit by bit over a period of time, they take control. And that seems to be what's happened, is where you're going with this story. So what happened from there?
So with him, from there, I had started college. I went maybe a half a semester and was like, this really isn't for me. Prior to me starting college, I was like, Dad, I really want a tattoo. And he's like, I'm not going to pay for my dad literally was going to pay for my college at 100%. And I was like, I want a tattoo. And he's like, oh, you can't get one. If you do, I won't pay for college. I'm like, all right, not getting one. I'm going to college, But I got halfway through my first semester and I was like, this really isn't for me. I'm not ready. I'd asked my dad to take a year off and then I was going to go. And I think, I don't know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know what I mean? It could have worked. It could have not. I don't know. He was like, no, you need to go right away because you'll never go back if you don't. Well, I quit. I stopped going halfway through the semester. I'd say to my parents, hey, I'm going off to school. And I'd go to my buddy's house who was at work at the time. And I'd open up his window and climb in and start drinking in the middle of the day, and his mom was there and she knew I was there, but she wouldn't say anything until my friend got home. I had a really good guy friend at the time. So that's what I would do. So shortly after that, right before I turned 19, I went back out to Des Moines with the other town with the guy I was dating. I'm still dating the same guy. We had broken up once or twice in between, and he would always, come find me where I was at and, give me the sob story, and I'd take him back. So from there, we go back out to Des Moines right after my 19th birthday. And I get a tattoo because fuck it. I'm not going to college anymore. Dad isn't going to be paying for it. They already know. And, and at that point, we go back to the same guy's house whose dad's the drug dealer. And now this time I'm like, no weed. And they're like, that's fine. We have meth. They called it crank. And at the time I was like, well, I don't know. And I said, promise this, what happened before won't happen. He's like, okay, it won't. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. Whatever. I'm still in that bad girl vibe. Right. And at that point, so it's an upper, it's poor man's cocaine. Right. I was like, this shit's amazing. I'm not tired anymore because I was always tired from being sick. I'm not shy, and at that point I was like, this is the miracle drug. You know what I mean? I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. Well, I know why, but at that point, my brain was like, holy crap, this is fun. I like it. And that kind of, that started, he and I started doing it together a little bit. It wasn't anything I did all the time, but when the nights that I would, when we came back to Nebraska, there would be weekend nights that I'd stay over at his house and I shouldn't be there, and we'd be awake all night. And he wouldn't let me go upstairs to use the restroom because his parents would find out. So it would be to the point where, it was a control thing though. There was one night that he punched me because we got into an argument. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm over this. I don't want to be punched anymore. So it was crazy.
So about how old are you now? You're still around 19?
Yeah, he and I broke up shortly after I turned 19, within a month or so.
Okay. So, at the time you started, he introduced you to meth, and it was in a controlled way. When you stopped with him at 19, did the meth continue?
It crept back in my life. Yeah. I had met a friend through my friend that I used to, go skip school with. He knew a girl, and she had a baby, and her baby was just 1 year old at the time. And I used to like to go out here in Omaha. There used to be a dance club that on Thursday nights, if you were over 18, you could go and dance. And they put big old M's on your hands. And so you couldn't drink, but you could go have a good time. And I loved to do that. It was one of my favorite things to do. I mean, back in the day, we were there every Thursday night. Well, I kept going with my friend who was a guy, and I was like, I don't like this. No guy's looking at me now. You know what I mean? They think I'm with you. So he liked this girl, and he introduced us, and I'm like, hey, do you want to come dancing? If you can get a babysitter, would you like to come out? And she's like, yeah, I'd love to. So her and I become really good friends. At that point, really, it's just, drinking on the weekend, not at the club, obviously. We would, find somebody to buy us alcohol. It wasn't that hard to come by. And then she gets kicked out of her parents' house and moves in with her aunt and uncle. Her uncle actually was a dealer. And consequently, and we'll get to that, becomes my ex-husband, and the father of my youngest daughter. But no, so he had it, and she'd be like, "Oh, you want to try it? You want to do it again?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess." We would, do a little before we would go out dancing, but it wasn't ever at that point. Wasn't a huge thing. It was just
recreational.
Having fun on the it was very much
fun.
recreational. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so just skipping back a little bit again to when you were 19 and you broke up with this guy, was there any more interaction that you had with this guy again from around 19 onwards, or was that when you got back together with him after your parents had told you not to from when you were 16, and then that's ended for good now?
Yeah, so the kid at 16 was different from the guy when I ended high school. I didn't get back together with the kid from high school until I was almost 30.
Right.
So I had a lot of
okay.
life in between. Guy. So no, okay. But no, this guy actually, he would pop up every once in a while, and for good, it was done. I kind of am that way. When I've made up my mind, it's just over.
Okay. So when it was over with this guy at 19, what happens in life from there? I mean, are you working at this stage or anything? Because you're sort of skipping school. Do you go and get a job? What do your parents find out that you're skipping school and you don't want to go to school anymore?
Yeah, I told my mom and dad. They found out I had a tattoo and whatever, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to school anymore. Sorry, guys." However, I was working. I was working at a department store, and I was also working for my mom. My mom owned two businesses at our airport here in Omaha. She owned a cookie company and a snack bar past the gates. And so at that point, she sold it when I was 19. So at that point, she had some people stealing from her. Like, they take full deposit bags. And so I would usually close at night and go in, or even if I wasn't, I'd go in and do, count down the registers, make sure everything got deposited, because I wasn't gonna steal from my mom and dad. I don't care how asshole of a kid I was.
Sure.
That is not, and they trusted me to go and do that. So at that point, it was right when my mom was getting ready to sell the business. She had had it since I was 9. And I was working kind of two jobs at the time. So.
Okay. And what was your relationship with your folks like at this age now that you're being rebellious, you finished school, you've got a tattoo, it was good as you were growing up, and I assume it's still good to the day, but like there's phases sometimes that we go through where it's patchy. I mean, was that one of those stages?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh Lord. That's really when it started. I remember after I broke up with the guy, when it was before I had my daughter, was dating. All right, whatever. I wasn't dating. I was, hooking up with a guy down in the same town. And it was, we'd go over, we'd drink, whatever. I was, whatever, having a good time. I'd met him at the dance club. So we were, I'd go down there, and this is the one thing I don't regret hardly anything. This is the one thing I think I regret my whole life. One night, my dad had planned a trip for my sister and I to go skiing with him in Colorado. And it was supposed to be just dad-daughter trip. He was really trying to pull me back in, I believe. And he had planned this wonderful trip for us. And I had gone out, snuck out the night. And again, I'm an adult, whatever, but I'm still living under my parents' roof at this point. I had gone out and was like, screw it. I'm going to go see this guy down in the next town. I didn't come home, and I missed the flight. So he took my sister, and they had a great time. She loved it because, now she's not under Sam's shadow, she loved it. And I was so fucking sick. I still to this day feel horrible. I don't know how many times I've apologized to my dad. And at that point, that's when he and I started to really be distant. I mean, again, the only thing I actually really regret in my life is hurting my dad that day. And I wish I would have gone on that vacation. But, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to just go into a little bit more. Like there's no like cell phones back then, right? As well, maybe, or they were just on the market, something like that. About 20 years ago or so, right? Mm-hmm. So were your parents trying to find where you were, or they just gave up at the time when you didn't turn up?
The perks of my dad working for the phone company, we always had the gadgets before, like the cell phones. We had a cell phone when I was 14, you know what I mean? Which that was early 90s when they really first started, it was the brick flip phone thing, that took up every bit of room in your, so, I mean, they had tried to call, I had a pager at the time because that was cool. It was 1999. And, that was the cool thing. They were trying to, page me, and I just didn't come home. So, and then I came home and my mom's like, your dad is livid. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't even want to talk about it. I felt like throwing up. I felt so bad. But I don't know what got into me that night. I was like, screw it. I don't need to do this. I'm just going to go have fun. And it was dumb.
I just want to harp on this a little bit. So I'm just trying to understand your mindset. And I know it's not you to the day now, but just as a kid's mindset, right? They're trying to page you. Were you just ignoring those pages coming through? Mm-hmm. And the realization after you got home, I mean, you said you're feeling sick to the stomach. Did you have this conversation with your dad after you got home? What was it specifically like?
He probably didn't talk to me for a good month after. So I don't think I really had a good conversation with him until after my second daughter was born. And I was 25 when she was born. So okay. It was one of those. I mean, don't get me wrong, it got a little better at points and things, but but he was heartbroken too. I don't think he ever thought I would do that. And honestly, I don't know. At the time I was 19 and stupid and thought, oh, I'm going to be grown. And he does, and at any moment I could have just went home and got on the darn plane with him. And I think I had just thought, I've dug myself in. I can't go back from this. I don't know. I've thought about it a lot since, obviously.
Of course, in hindsight, looking back, you'd take that plane. There's no doubt. But just one of those things. It's a great lesson in life, right? Of course, you regret it, but what did it teach you at the time, or at least now, looking back? What's that taught you? That specific one moment, something that you don't regret much, but you regret with this one thing. What did you learn out of that particular experience?
Well, I learned that, a good time shouldn't overshadow family and, and all. I mean, there's always going to be time to go out and do things. You don't always have your parents. It's not like he's not sick or anything now, but, but his dad died young, not because he lived an unhealthy life or anything. It was because of a job he did. But, I don't know. It was so stupid. And then now I think, God, I hope my kids don't do that to me. You know what I mean?
Like looking the positive in that, right, is that you learned it at a fairly young age to counteract that in future, right? So you're not learning it when you're 40 and going, oh damn, I really upset my parents. It's something that I reckon that's a huge life lesson that you learn in that point. As painful as it was, as much as it made you sick and your dad, I think it's the realization of how much you care for each other in those moments, So yeah, bad thing, but a good thing probably to look back on. All right.
Absolutely.
So moving forward on that, so you said you had your second daughter at 25.
Mm-hmm.
So how old were you when you had your first daughter?
I was 20. I had just
20.
20.
Okay, so this kind of comes soon then from 19.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how this all came about.
So I like to go dancing. I did that a lot. I was at the dance club, and my friend and I, she and I were at the dance club, and I see this guy dancing, and he is dancing very well. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate that, because most of the people at this club could not dance.
Sure.
And I might be a little snobby about it. I've
been known to shake a tail feather. Yeah, so go ahead.
And this guy's got tattoos. I mean, he's got a leg sleeve. He's got an arm sleeve. I mean, he's tatted up, and I'm like, oh, he's interesting. Well, my friend at the time was kind of going after him too. I'm like, fuck you, bitch. Excuse my language, but that's what I was thinking.
You can swear on my podcast, that's right.
Okay, cool. I was like, fuck you, bitch. No, and I was really like, no, you're not going to win. He's going to like me. That was my first ex-husband. This guy, he's in the Air Force. He was in the Air Force at the time. And he was really fun and interesting because he was from the East Coast. He was from, Massachusetts. So he's got the Boston accent. And I'm like, oh, you're not from around here. I always wanted to not live in Omaha and probably somewhere on the East Coast. So he was very intriguing to me.
Sure.
His and I relationship was not very long. I think altogether, and with us being married 8 months tops, maybe
with
6.
You being married as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, we were married longer. So I meet him, we start dating. It's pretty kind of a fast relationship where I fell not so much in love, but in
what you thought was love at the time.
Well, kind of more intrigued by, him being from the East Coast. He's in the Air Force. It's kind of a cool thing. He can dance. It's something I like to do. So we start dating, we go out and whatever. Still within this time, every so often I might go, we talked about the meth. I might on a weekend, if he wasn't there, have a little bit and, go out and have a good time. But it wasn't, again, still that thing at that point. It wasn't anything major. But, so he and I start dating, and with about 3 months of us, with 3 months of us dating, we start fighting pretty well. The day I found out the weekend that I found out I was pregnant with our daughter, we had been together about 3 months, and we had stopped at the Blockbuster, the video rental store at the time. And we were fighting like cats and dogs. And he was driving my car, and he locked himself in my car. And I was like, you motherfucker, you are not, this is my car, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to call the cops on this guy. I don't know, at that point, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing here. And finally I get him to come out of my car, and I was like, screw you. And I leave him there, and I make him walk back to base, which is probably 5 miles.
Right.
And I leave him there. And that weekend I go out, we go dancing. I have a good time. We were out dancing, and he shows up at my parents' house that Sunday. And I'm like, why are you here? I don't really want to be with you anymore. I broke up with you, dude. And he had called my parents like, oh, where is she at? They're like, she broke up with you. We're not telling you where she is, because they had kind of seen some things in him, like, this guy could be bad news. And that weekend it's not that I drank overly a lot. I mean, we went out, but, I stayed up late and things, but I wasn't feeling the best. And he's like, are you sure you're not pregnant? And I'm like, no, there's no way. I'm on birth control. We're fine. He goes, let's just check. And then lo and behold, I'm pregnant with my daughter. He had asked me to marry him prior to that. And I was like, no. And at that point, because of my upbringing, I was like, well, I guess we got to get married, Sure. And we told my parents, and within a week we were married. So
within a week, so that was pretty quick.
Yeah, it was courthouse. Yeah, but
right.
It was my parents were beautiful.
Sure.
They got flowers. We had a whole reception with friends of the family. You know what I mean? They really, for kind of a shotgun wedding, made it what a really great day, even though I knew I should have never married him.
Sure. Your parents do sound like lovely people, to be honest, so far, right? So from what I'm learning from them. Okay, so you're now married after just over 3 months.
Mm-hmm. I'd never met his parents.
Oh, you never met his parents either. How come they didn't come?
Because it was so quick. I met his parents about a month after we got married. We went out to where I hadn't met his parents at that point.
What was his parents' reaction? Do you know of what when you guys got married? Were they totally cool with it? Didn't care? They not happy about it?
Well, they were kind of like my parents. My parents were like, "Well, I get why you're pregnant." His parents were like, "We've never met her, but she seems okay." And then when they met me, they're like, "Oh, we really do like her," you know what I mean? But they were just, my ex-husband, my first ex-husband is very impulsive. So for them, they didn't see that it was not off character for him. You know, they thought, oh, should we really, really like this girl? How long are they going to be together? You know what I mean? Even though we were married. Sure. So. Okay.
All right. So, tell me what that next 5 months holds, because you're growing with the baby in your belly and you technically split up 5 months later. So what's happening there?
Because we're married, I now move on to base housing. Since he's married now, he actually, instead of the barracks, which is more like an apartment for, you know, whatever, or a dorm room, now he gets an actual house down there. And we move on to base. He, again, very impulsive guy. My first trimester with both girls, horrible morning sickness. I was sick so much. I was working at a department store, so I had a good job. But we moved down onto base, and nobody can come see me now. You can't get on base without a military ID, or unless you let somebody on. Like if my parents wanted to come see me, we'd have to go to the gate and let them in. Right. At that point, he kind of isolates me from friends, family, everybody. It gets, in
a possessive way, he's isolating
very
you.
much. Yeah, very much so. He knew that he got lucky that I got pregnant. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't have gone back to him. No. So yeah, I'm on base. Right after I moved on to base, or we moved on to base after we got married, I was driving to work and I got pulled over for speeding. Well, turns out I forgot I got a speeding ticket down in the town where my ex lived, because the guy I was fooling around with down there, he had fooled around with one of the cops' wives. And so anybody that came out of his lot, they would pull over. Well, I forgot about this damn ticket, slipped my mind, right? And so at that point, I get pulled over. I get taken to jail. I'm 3 months pregnant. No, not even. I'm so newly pregnant. I'm not even showing yet, right? So I go down there, and the people where I got pulled over, the cops there were kind of jerks. They treated me, I get it. They're cops. The town over, it's in
doesn't mean you have
county.
To be a jerk though, but yeah.
Well, it's true. No, I know, but they were like, they
were just jerks.
Tore my car apart. My purse was emptied. It is what it is. But I get down to the next county where they switched with one of the other sheriffs, and the other sheriff is so sweet. He puts the cuffs in front of me. He lets me sit in the front seat. I'm bawling like snot ball. I'm like, this has never happened. I don't know. My husband's going to kill me, actually, is what I first said. And he goes, honey, your husband should not be mad. This is an honest mistake. It's not a big deal. He'll be out within an hour, I'm sure. I said, are you sure? And I'm like sobbing, like heaving, like, crying. I had to call work and be like, I'm sorry, I can't be in. You know what I mean? It was horrible. I'm like, they're going to fire me. I have, I'm pregnant, what is going on here? And I get down there, and because it's just a failure to appear or whatever warrant. It wasn't anything. I just forgot to pay the darn thing because I got mad at it. And so I forget to pay this ticket. I'm down in jail. They put me in just like where you would see your attorney instead of putting me with the actual prisoners. They knew I wasn't going to be there long. I'm pregnant. They didn't want me to be around. They were so sweet. I called my husband at the time and I said, hey, call my parents. I know we don't have the cash to get me out right now, but I'm sure they will. And they did, like, immediately. Well, however, I was there 8 hours that day. It was about 8 hours. He did not come back and get me until that evening. And this was first thing in the morning that I got pulled over.
Right.
And then made me power play.
Right.
Make me pay for forgetting. I don't know. That's what I think. I'm pretty sure. And then that night he made me call his parents and ask them and thank them for giving us money, because he asked his parents too. And, for bailing me out, even though my parents were the ones. He was scamming money off of his parents and made me the asshole. And I had to be like, I didn't want to tell them. It was just, something in all of the stuff that was going on. I'm pregnant. I get married. Now I'm moving. I forgot to pay a ticket. You know what I mean? And
how old was this guy compared to you being 20? How old was he?
So I'm 19 at this time. I got pregnant at 19. I had her at 20. He's 20, almost 21.
Right. So he's also
literally
a
year older than me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I start seeing the abuse with him starting. Obviously, it was dumb.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I wonder how far into your relationship this was. A few months in. Sorry, because after your marriage, I should say, just freshly in.
Month and a half or so. Okay. Yeah.
And you're really realizing that you probably shouldn't be with this guy. Mm-hmm. And how soon before your whole 5-month total of the marriage were you starting to create an exit plan? Like, how did that happen?
So, he was, like I said, he had a classic abuser. He had pulled me away from my family and my friends. I barely saw them. I was on base. I'd go to work. That's it. Maybe we'd see my parents once every couple weeks. He decides, I don't know why. I mean, we get 2 dogs because he thinks we're going to build this family with all these pets. And we had a devil cat. I mean, he just wanted everything. We had gotten, I don't know why. He was just really impulsive. We bought geckos and shit that we didn't have money for, No, I mean, I don't understand why, thinking about it.
Impulsive. He was impulsive.
Very, very impulsive. Yes. As we go through it all, he starts to get physical now, every time, or one time we had a fight and, he pushed on my stomach like that. I'm like, fuck you, dude. I'm not losing this baby.
While you were pregnant?
Yes.
Right.
And so at that point, then I'm starting to think of my exit strategy. I had been talking to my mom one night and he came in and was mad at me, and I was like, I gotta go. So she sent some friends who she knew had a military ID to come down and check on me. It was to the point where, okay, so I'm sick a lot because I'm pregnant. I've had horrible morning sickness. He would try to force himself on me at night when I was sleeping. One night he threw the bed with me on it because I told him no. I ended up throwing a fucking cake pan at his head and missed him like that. I'm so pissed I didn't make it. At that point, he had gone to work the next day, and I called my mom. I said, okay, here's what's happening. I have an OB appointment today at I think it was noon. He's going to meet me there. I've packed this morning, and I will come back and pack, quickly and get the last final things when I come home from the OB appointment. I know he has to go back to work. I'm leaving. And mom said, okay. And so I grabbed my 2 dogs and anything that I could put in my car, and I left him because I didn't want to lose the baby.
This was at the 5-month period.
Yeah, right
8
around.
months in total. Okay.
Yeah.
hold the thought there. We got a message from your husband, the one that has this infatuation with me. So here we go. Here's Dave.
Hey guys, don't know where you're at in the podcast. Some neighbors stopped over downstairs, so that's where I'm at. So Bill and Ann want to say hi. Here's Bill.
Hi, Sam.
And here is Prego. Ann.
Hi, Sam.
Don't forget about me.
Oh, you're here too.
Hello.
Say hi.
Hello. You almost forgot about me.
All right.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, keep having a great podcast. We love this. Say bye.
See you soon.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
And there's some supporters there.
Oh, goodness.
Thanks, Dave. Always dropping in with the goods, man.
Yeah.
All right. So you are at the stage now where you leave him and you go back to stay with your parents.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And you are now. You're about halfway through your pregnancy.
Yep.
And so you continue the rest of the pregnancy out at home with your folks and have your daughter. Explain that to me. Explain the arrival of your daughter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So kind of leading up to that, shortly after I left my ex, my parents had gone out of town and they were like, hey, come with us. I'm like, I got to work. We got this baby coming. I got to make money for her. And, but they left my uncle my grandma stayed with us and, to make sure that, well, for one, my sister's still a teenager, but for two that, I'm okay. And, if he comes around, nobody messes with my grandma. So, no, she was tough. But my uncles are 7 and 10 years older than me. So more like brothers. We grew up together. You know what I mean? So they knew, that he would to be on the lookout for him and just in case. And I was on the phone with my Uncle Chris one day and I just stopped at my mom and dad's house to grab something. And then I was heading over to my grandmother's house and my ex had been following me we weren't divorced at this point, but I had left him. He had been following me and he came to the house and, my mom and dad's house, came in the door and locked it. So I'm on the phone with my uncle. I'm like, he's here now. Thank God. My uncles, my Nana, and my uncles lived literally 3 or 4 blocks away from my parents' house. So they were there pretty quick, but he chased me around the house. He locked the door so nobody could come in. When my uncles finally got there, he actually got scared and let them in. But at that point, I wasn't, okay. I was sure that I had
kick
left
his
him.
ass?
They sure fucking did. It was great. I was actually the most proud I've ever been of my uncles.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've had some things going forward, but they did. And I think he pissed his pants that day. I mean, he was so scared of them, but I threw my wedding rings at him at that point. I was like, I am done. If you ever thought you had a chance, we're done. So from there, I really just kind of put nose to the grindstone and working. I worked up until the day I delivered, a day before I delivered my daughter. I mean,
Wow.
I wasn't feeling bad. I mean, I was 19 in great shape. Up until maybe I had gone to the dance club one time. It's not like and I was like, this is dumb. Why am I here? You know what I mean? Just because I was young and I was like, I just want to have, an experience.
Sure.
I remember New Year's Eve that year, right before she was born in March 6th, actually. So New Year's Eve that year, I'm big pregnant, thinking, nobody's ever going to love me. I'm going to be a single mom, having a pity party. And my Nana, my Nana was my best friend. She passed away about 11 years ago. And, she was my best friend. She was she was everything to me. But she was like, honey, you're fine. You're going to find somebody someday. Nobody's going to take, and I just cried on her lap, sobbing like, like my sister was out having a good time. My best friend at the time, they were, because, I'm pregnant. I can't go do that. You know what I mean? And I was just like, nobody likes me. It was dumb. It But my Nana was so sweet. She's like, honey, you've got this. And then, my Nana would always go to my OB appointments with me. And I was still going to base because we're still married, so I could still get military help to have the baby. We're in the midst of divorce proceedings, but I'm still having the baby on base. So a few days before I deliver my daughter, I go for an OB appointment, and they said, hey, do you want us to induce you? We think you're fine. We're just going to measure her. And I'm like, sure. I thought nothing of it. Mom and dad are very supportive. I mean, throughout this whole thing. And I thought nothing of it. And about a week prior, I guess, I had gone up because I was having Braxton Hicks. And my soon-to-be ex-husband was in the parking lot driving around because somebody tipped him off that I was at the hospital. So he was stalking me at this point. And back then, I guess it was way harder than it is now to stalk somebody. So somebody close to me had been tipping him off. Well, when I was admitted, it came out that they had to induce me because they were afraid he was going to come try to hurt me or take the baby when I had her. He had been kicked out of the Air Force. He had bought a gun with a hot check, meaning he had bounced his check. It didn't, the money, and over a certain dollar amount, it's almost a felony, I think. So they had kicked him out, and they were worried. So his first sergeant, the guy who was his first sergeant, met me up there, made sure I was safe. They put me in under an assumed name. My last name then was Forbes. We went in under Jenkins. My baby was baby Jenkins when she was born. But what was cool about it all is that my dad, oh my gosh, he was there the whole time. He was there with me overnight. He was there when my water broke. He was, I almost broke his hand because of my contractions. I was like, oh, God. But he was so sweet. He, I don't know. Obviously he was, stayed here, he didn't want to, get into the business, but
yeah.
When I thought I couldn't do it, he goes, you've got this, Sam, you've got this. And honestly, it was, my sister was there. She almost passed out. My mom was there. It was such a great way to bring a baby into the world, even though we couldn't leave our room. My mom almost was there to catch her. You know what I mean? It was beautiful to have my whole family there. And then I have this baby, so I'm going to cry there a little bit.
Beautiful. Right. So you're a mother now.
Yeah.
You got all the family support in the world. Your family sounds amazing. But you've got this psycho in the car park. So you had to stay in the hospital room for days, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
And does he find out what happens? Is he wanting you? Is he wanting to see his kid as well? Like, what's happening?
I think it was more so the possession of me. It was the baby too.
Sure. But there was a bigger drive than that too. It was like he was losing the game. He wanted to control you. It's like, you don't dare fucking slip from me. I'm in the car park. Potentially has a gun too, right? That's the word on the street.
Yeah, we didn't know. We have no idea at this point.
Yeah, you have no idea. So
we had guards at the doors of the maternity ward. It was crazy.
So how did you know he was in the car park?
They saw his car. They had people. It's a military base, for Pete's sakes.
Oh, right. And the police didn't get involved at that point?
He was just circling, so I guess I don't know if they could have. I know
but
that
he cashed a bad check, and
that's true.
Potentially carrying a gun. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying, like, what the hell are they thinking? Aren't they just like, fucking get him now? That's what I'd be thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. We were in there.
That's not what's on your mind as you're giving birth, of course, but.
And honestly, at that point, I wasn't quite sure at that point what was going on. What it really kicked into my brain, and maybe because I was having a baby and it wasn't the forefront of my mind, but what really kicked into me, her 2-week appointment, how you go 2 weeks after the baby's born and make sure they're good and not jaundiced and whatever. His face is up on a picture of him at every entrance saying, "Do not let this man on this base." And I went, "Oh shit, that's why you induced me." Literally, it dawned on me then. Again, at that point, I was just like, "Why are we doing this?" I mean, I got it. We were under assumed name, and I couldn't leave the room and whatever. But it really dawned on me that
the power of it impacted you then. Yeah,
it really just fucking hit me, and I was like, "Oh shit, this was real." Because even at 20, I'm a dumb kid. Yeah, I know now I'm a mom, but I'm still a dumb kid.
Okay.
So.
We have a message on the screen here from Skinny. He said, "Love your sister, and Rock, you're an absolute legend too." I know he actually said, "And Rock, you're a kind of okay too." But thank you very much, Skinny. All right. So now how do you escape that then? I mean, you've got a daughter, you've got a psycho there. You leave the hospital. You're fearing for your safety?
Kind of. I know that he was afraid of my parents, like my dad at least, and my uncles. So once we were home, it wasn't so bad. When we went for the divorce, I did get a supervised visitation with him. I mean, again, he is what he is, but it is his kid. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to. Yeah. So I did want him to be able to see her, but supervised at that point meant he came over to my parents' house and we were all there. So, I mean, and anytime he would come and see her, it was him trying to get back with me.
Explain to me the first time that you witnessed him see your daughter for the first time, him as a father. This is his first kid too, I'm assuming. He didn't have any other kids.
Yep.
Knowing that he still wants you back too, but did you witness the moment where he got to hold or look at your daughter for the first time?
I did. I mean, it was with him. This is going to sound like me being an asshole. I don't think it was genuine. He waned that, "Oh my gosh, it's my daughter and I'm crying," but it didn't seem genuine to me.
I get you.
He was very
missing there.
Yes, there was something. He was very theatrical. There was times when we would fight and he would pass out, and I'm like, "You're fucking dumb." You know what I mean?
Well, let me back up what you're saying there. So, I know that sometimes someone can tell you something and it can sound believable, but there's something missing where you don't believe it. And I think that's because, I'm under the belief is because unconsciously we read the different body language and cues from people, right? So although we're witnessing you do something or say something and it sounds right, unconsciously there's some cues missing there. So it doesn't feel right. That's why we get the feeling of like, I'm not sure that's legitimate. And you can sort of pick that up in other people unconsciously. And that's potentially what you're picking up there. Like, yeah, he's crying. Yeah, he's probably impacted at some point, but there's still the real reason deep down, something's not right. You get that gut feeling. That's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was, it definitely wasn't genuine. And she's so fun. So my oldest, she is smart beyond her age, always has been since infancy. At about 6 to 7 months, he would come over and she hated him. She didn't like him at that point. And she would pretend to sleep every time he came over and he'd be like, "Well, I guess I'm going to go." And the minute she'd hear the door, her little eyes would be like, "He's gone." Seriously, it was insane. And it was literally a fake sleep because I know my kid, you know what I mean? But she could tell that, I don't know, it was pretty cute. But she's still too smart for her own britches, but
too big for a boot to do sometimes, right?
Yeah.
All right, we've got a message on the screen. It's from Dave, and he says, Taryn and Jananya are listening on Facebook. Taryn says, "Go get him, Sam. Toscano-Watson, looking good as always." So that's a message from Taryn. Thank you. And yeah, you guys, yes, you should be listening to Fireside. It doesn't matter. It's streaming live through Facebook right now, correct? So you can watch it there or on Twitch, and it will be up on YouTube in the near future. All right. So, So your daughter's born, and now you're 20, not long after she's born.
I turned 20 in December. She was born in March. So I turned 20 right before she was born. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're 20. Now, not to skip forward too much, but we're going to start moving on to your second daughter. She's about 25. Some stuff's happening between 20 and 25.
There's a lot of
obviously,
shit.
you meet another man. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so, as you tell me about meeting the other guy, but also what's happening in life, because I imagine that your eldest daughter's father, this man, is still always going to be around, creeping his fingers in, trying to do things, and you're going to be with another guy. Does jealousy hit that point? Does he know about it? Like, what happens? A lot of shit you said. Let's unravel it.
All right. So when I first left my first ex-husband, his mom sent me a letter saying, I get what you did. His dad's an asshole. He's just like his dad. So she was like, I want to be in my granddaughter's life. I'm here. Keep in touch. I don't fault you for this. And I went, that's pretty fucking cool.
Respect.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love her dearly. She's wonderful. I've lucked out in all 3 marriages now. Wonderful mother-in-laws. They've all been great. When my oldest daughter, Sabrina, was 8 months old, her dad moved back to Connecticut or Massachusetts, where his family was, because now he's kicked out of the Air Force. Now he tried to make it here for a bit, but he decided to go back home. Shortly, or at that point, just so Sabrina could meet her grandmother, I did fly out to Massachusetts as well to take her out, and I stayed with her. However, again, he saw it as me being out there for him and tried to get with me the whole time. We stayed in a hotel room the night before I flew back with Sabrina. That night she was crying. She didn't like her dad. He was there. She was just like, this sucks, Mom. And what he did to calm her down was put his hand over her mouth. I'm like, she is 8 months old. You can't put a man hand over an 8-month-old's face. And I punched him. Fucking punched him. And I said, listen, back off my kid. This is why it's supervised. I'm sad that I'm even here in the same room with you. So at that point, geez Louise, what are you doing? Dave's fixing the lights. Sorry.
David, for God's sake, out of all times.
Leave me alone.
No, he's fixing the light on you now.
I know.
She looks beautifully fine. Back
so
up.
At that point, after that, I didn't see my ex-husband for a long time. But when Sabrina was about 6 weeks old, and it's weird, I had met a guy back in the day of dancing, same name as my ex-husband. And I get this random call one day saying, hi, we met, I don't know, almost a year ago at the club. You made an impression on me. Turns out I know your cousin, and he gave me your phone number. And I was like, what? So this guy, his name is Sean, he calls me and says, I'd like to take you out on a date. And at 6 weeks, my daughter's 6 weeks old, I'm thinking, I told you, I'd cried to my grandmother, and nobody's ever going to love me again. I'm like, I've been married. I'm still married, almost divorced now. I have a baby. Are you sure you want to date me? Even go on a date with me? And he's like, yeah, I'd love to take you on a date. So we meet and we go on a date. And this is not my second daughter's dad, but this is important. I told you I'd already met my second daughter's dad. My friend that I used to go to the club with, Candy, her uncle became my second ex-husband. My second husband. At this point, he's just the guy that has the drugs. He's the guy that I know. All right, this is going to make me sound like an asshole. So when I first meet my second husband, I know he likes me. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm fit. Whatever. I can definitely tell he's attracted to me. Am I attracted to him? He's 16 years older than me, so he was close. He was in his 30s.
Right.
At this point, he was in his 30s. 35 almost. So he would willingly just be like, here, have this, just to be like, hey,
just to
hey,
hook you in that door. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And whatever. I was like, whatever, dude. And at
Sure.
that point, I was an asshole. I was like, whatever. If you think I'm cute and you're going to do this, fine. I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're a kid. That's what people do, right? As kids,
Well,
that's what kids
and
do.
I'm not somebody that uses anybody, but and again, this is something that he used against me. He knew I did that, and going forward, he kind of used it against me once we.
It's a tool that people use when they're hooked on drugs and things like that. It's like he's using the tool. You're also using the tool. Like it's just what happens, right? I get it.
And let me say just one thing: I was never hooked. Did I fall into meaning I was never addicted? Did I fall into a trap where there was a time in my life where it did dictate a lot? Yes, it fucking did.
Sure.
And I feel really bad about those times. I don't really regret it though, because it did make me who I am today. And I'm very proud of who I am today. However, I did make a lot of bad decisions. So,
and those bad decisions are all life-changing and learning lessons to form who you are today completely. Would you be the same person if you didn't go through it? Possibly, but you might be a little bit different. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned out of these things. I completely seen a lot of people going through these things as I've been growing up myself and witnessed some of the lessons that they've learned and have been profound from it. So don't worry if you're thinking that I'm making any judgment, because I'm not at all, because I completely open-minded and understand exactly where yourself and many others have been around in these situations. So it's quite the norm in some situations.
Yeah, and again, the draw for me with all of it, and back in the day, it was, the bathtub crank. It wasn't the crystal. It was, kind of lithium laden ether crap. But really, it was when I did it, I was not shy. And that was the biggest draw. You know what I mean? I was like, I could talk to anyone. This is amazing.
Yep. Dutch courage, as they say, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, it was fun. I could not be tired. It was whatever. But again, back in the day, that's when I met him. I had met him. We would go over on the weekend. I'd bat my eyes a little bit, sit on his lap, and he'd be like, here. But he was actually a bigger player in the game than I expected. Between me leaving or meeting the guy that took me out on the date, and I would hang out with my friend and her uncle on the weekends. His ex-wife that had been cheating on him, and so he was very like, "Are you kidding me?" She'd leave on a Friday night and come home on Sunday and be like, "I don't know, why are you mad at me?" And he'd be like, "Are you kidding me? You left me, you've been sleeping with somebody all weekend." And at that point, I know he probably wouldn't have done anything, only because he wanted to have the high ground on that. But he was a bigger player in the game than I really expected. So I started dating this other guy. I kind of introduced this other guy to, on occasion having, doing meth and whatever on the weekends, whatever. It became a weekend. We were weekend warriors, so to speak. Well, the guy that I was dating at the time really looked up to my ex-husband. He was like, "Oh, I want to be this guy. I'm going to be the dealer. I'm going to be the badass." I mean, there was times back in the day we were just friends at that time, at my ex-husband's house, that people would come in with a gun in a bag and then say, "Hey, give this to the next person that comes," and he, whatever. And then they come back and say where they used it and how it happened. And he'd, wipe it clean and give it back to the original owners. I mean, there was some crazy shit happening. There was a lot of drugs running through his place that I didn't even realize at the time. Right.
And yet alone, can I just cut in there and say that the guy that you were sort of seeing before your ex-husband there is saying, "I want to be like this dude one day," is not even realize he's planting a fucking cool seed for you to go, and that's the bad boy I want to be with. Like he's building that thing up in you, right?
Kind of. I mean, he was
shooting himself in the foot.
Jealous of him. Yes.
Yeah.
And this guy fell into a long line of abusers. You know what I mean? The new guy that I'm dating now, he starts mentally. At one point, he said, "My friends are the cool kids. You know, my friends." Okay, so after high school, does it matter if you're cool? No. I mean, it matters who you are now, but there's not the cliques. It's not what it is. He'd be like, he goes, "My friends are like the Knights of the Round Table, and you're just lucky to be standing behind me." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me, dude?" So at one point, I stopped being friends with my ex-husband and just go all in on this guy, right? This guy now decides he's going to be a dope dealer. He's going to live that life. He's going to show me, but I'm not going to be. This was right around my 21st birthday. So he's going to show me. Well, this guy goes in deep. He gets in with the Hells Angels, which is a motorcycle club. And he and one of the higher up Hells Angel, or well, like sons of a Hells Angel in the chapter here.
Yep.
Yeah, is like son of the Prez, are dealing dope together. At this point, again, I'm no longer hanging out with my ex-husband, my friend at the time. It's so weird to say my ex-husband, but I'm no longer hanging out with this guy. And so I'm hanging out with this guy, but what he's doing is I have a car. My dad bought me a car when I first had Sabrina. And so what my boyfriend at the time would do is he'd take my car and go out for days on end and then bring it back. Well, at that point, he's meeting, dealing to strippers. He's making deals. It's whatever. And maybe once a week, I get to tag along, right? Now, all this time, again, I'm here with my kid when I need to be, but my parents on the weekends would be like, "Hey, go out, you're still young, go have a life." Yeah. And I would go out. Now, don't get me wrong. There was times where I wouldn't come home for the weekend and she'd be with them. I was wrong for that, but they were the best people I could think of to watch her. Right.
Absolutely.
And she was safe and happy. I didn't worry about her. I'm like, "Oh, they've got it. They raised me pretty great." Oh, wait, maybe not. But, they raised me pretty. No, they did. Sure. They were great parents. They're going to be great. I'm being an asshole at this point. So that all starts to happen. In the middle of this, again, I'm working. I've got my daughter. When she's about 18 months old, 17 months old, she starts making a funny face I don't know. It was just like, and I'm like, "Oh, she made a new face today." And then she keeps making it on a consistent basis, but not. And I went, "Oh, wait." And my mom goes, "Do you think she's having a seizure?" And I'm like, "I think so. That's not right." So we take my daughter to the doc, and he goes, "I think she is having seizures. We're going to put her." So amidst all of this craziness that's happening, my daughter starts having something that happens to her, right? And our doctor at the time was great. He said, "Go to the emergency room. That way you can get a specialist right away." Her first week, she was in the hospital a week. They put her on a 24-hour EEG. So anytime she had a seizure, I was supposed to, or event, as they said, I was supposed to click a button, whatever, and to record it. They couldn't record anything that way. They couldn't catch it on the EEG. So I'm dealing with this plus other things, you know what I mean? All of this is going on. Ultimately, she has epilepsy. She still has it to this day. She takes meds for it. But at that time, I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? So let me just say this. I think I had postpartum depression. I'm kind of rambling now. Sorry. I had postpartum depression, and then my kid has epilepsy, and I don't know how to deal with it. So I at this point, when this happens, I kind of start running away a little bit.
Drifting away from the heavy weight of what life's throwing at you right now. So you're just looking for an escape a little bit.
Yes.
At a young age, I can understand that's what you're trying to do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was rambling. Okay. Go ahead.
we've got two messages on the screen. They're both from Skinny. He said, "Love you guys," and my big brother Dave And he said, what I want to know, do you ever steal ham? There must be a private joke between you guys. Skinny would get the bone stuck in his throat, I think. But all right. So your daughter's going through a health issue. You're off with a guy. I don't know if he was patched at the time, right? He used to hang with the Hells Angels, but he wasn't a member.
Right. He didn't even want to be a member. He just ended up being an associate with the member. Yeah.
Sure. And things are getting more and more heavy at home. There's drugs going through the house. I imagine there's meth getting passed around a bit too. You know, when you're in that scene, it's around. Probably other drugs too, I'm assuming. Guns. Heavy life going on when you got a kid. But then I don't know if I'm going to skip anything by asking the next question. And if I am, then feel free to jump in and throw the piece in. But there's a point where you get pregnant with him as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of it between now and then. So kind of to sum up the boy before I was with my ex-husband, he ended up, one thing I always knew I would never do is use a needle to do drugs. You know, I would smoke it, snort it, swallow it, whatever. Again, it is what it is. I did what I did. It made me who I am. But I knew, and the boundary I held is I would never fucking do that. Hard fucking pass. Not gonna fucking do it. If there ever came a day back in that day that I could not get high off of any of those others, it was not the time for me to do it. I should be done, right? But this guy started shooting, and at one point, so he was fucking okay. He'd take my car and go fuck strippers in my car. He was cheating on me. I found fucking condoms in my car. We didn't use them. I found other girls' clothes in my car, which to this day I still have a sweater that I found because fuck that bitch. It was my car. You left it. But, no, seriously, I still have it. I wear it to this day.
You wear it?
I do. Yeah. Because you know why? Okay. I'm better than that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm the one who won. Yeah.
Burn it in front of him like a fucking flag. Yeah. Okay.
The point is at one point he was going to his stripper girlfriend's house and was doing a drug deal, and the guy that he was doing a drug deal with, I knew from my friend, or my now ex-husband. This guy would never hurt me, but my boyfriend at the time left me as collateral. So if he didn't come back in time, they got to keep me.
Right. Explain that in a breakdown, because that's not something to brush over. That's something that's pretty serious. So tell me how that happened.
So we were, he had picked me up in my car because he pretty much took domain over it. And, we were out and whatever. He's like, hey, I got to go do this deal. And we go over to the stripper's house. Her name was Sugar.
Typical stripper's name, by the way.
Yeah. And coincidentally, the stripper's girlfriend, who he also fucked, was a gal that my sister beat up in high school because she talked shit about me, which was kind of funny. But but at any rate, we're out and whatever, and we meet the guy there that he's going to do the drug deal with, and he goes, I got to go in because that's where I have my shit, whatever, or whatever the money is. And he goes, you sit here with the other dude. And I get into the car with the other dude. I'm like, hey, what's up, brother? Because I like the guy. I would know him. He was somebody that I had associated with prior to knowing my boyfriend at the time. And he's like, yeah, what's up? And he was trying to be really cool about it, like cold about it. Like, you don't realize. I didn't know what was going on. I was just hanging out because I wasn't going to go in that fucking house. I knew what happened, and he wouldn't admit it, and I wasn't going to get in, I wasn't going to fucking do it. So the guy that the other dealer had a couple of high school girls, like late high school, like senior year high school girls in the car, and they're like, oh my God, I would never be left as collateral. And I looked at it, was like that moment, like, holy shit, I didn't even realize I'm this fucker's girlfriend. I wasn't being left as collateral, was I? But I was. I mean, had he have not gone through with that deal, I don't know what would have happened. Now, hopefully, because I already knew the guy, maybe, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I thank God the guy at the time, actually, my boyfriend at the time, came through with the deal, because might not be here. You know what I mean? Are you there?
So my internet's gone slightly sketchy, but I did get the story. Luckily, it's still clearing up now.
Okay,
I think.
there we go.
I might even be slightly
Yeah.
glitchy at the time. It says, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
We're coming through a little glitchy.
Yeah. And now it's okay. Is it clear yet?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Now,
Oh, now you glitched
I was
again.
going, but I did catch the story. It was okay. Give it a second. All right. I'm not sure if it's clearing up now. Is it?
Yeah. I think we're good.
Okay. Sorry. It's just coming up a little glitchy. I've got a message from Diana. I'll play it. If it doesn't come through clear, I'll play it again. So let's just try it out first. Here we go. Diana.
You had an angel on your shoulder, and obviously there's stuff left for you to do here.
Did you catch that okay?
An angel on my shoulder, stuff left for me to do, right?
Yep,
Pretty
that's
sure
right.
that's
Yeah,
what she said. Okay.
it is. Yes. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. It says the poor network quality here, but it's clear for me otherwise. So just let me know if it's still coming through glitchy.
It is a touch, but I can hear you. So let's.
Okay. Let me try. Okay. So if you can still hear me, we've got a message on the screen. It's from Wendy, and she says, "Sending love to Sam." So there's a message for you there. Okay. I'm hoping that this clears up. It's still sitting there. Is it?
I can hear you fine now. Yeah.
Okay, good. Hopefully that clears up. All right. So I did catch the story. It was a little glitchy at the time, but it was. I did hear that he left you. Now you were thinking it's lucky that you knew this guy and that the deal went okay. But if it wasn't, who knows what would have happened to you?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the mentality. Was this other guy also like a biker that was in the car?
No, he was. No, he was not. He was just in the drug scene. He was not a biker. So this guy was actually somebody my ex-husband knows, and was from a different part of town here in Omaha, but he was not a biker. He was in a different scene.
All right. And I'm just thinking, if it did go bad, what was the guy to do? Technically, if it went bad and had you as collateral, like have his way with you to make up for the deal gone wrong? What's the mentality of this guy? Was he trying to...
To be honest, it was what he decided. I mean, it was dealer's choice right there. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Hopefully, because he knew me, but maybe to make an example, it could have been anything. I don't know. It could have been bodily harm. It could have been rape. It could have been dead. I don't know. I mean, and the gravity hit me at that moment when the high school girl was like, I would have never let my boyfriend leave me as collateral. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I thought I made the decision not to go in there. No, he had made the deal that I was the if this doesn't go right, you get to keep Sam. So
we have a message on the screen. It's from your husband. He said, almost made me cry, and I've heard the story before. So yeah, David, time for Dave to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So, and you're not pregnant with your second daughter at this stage?
No. She doesn't. I'm 21, maybe not even 22 yet.
But you stayed with this guy for years by the sounds of it.
Well, I stayed with him a couple years. I break up with well, here's why. Here's what happened. Shortly after this happens, the guy that had left me as collateral decides to do a drug deal at a casino. He was going to trade a pound of meth for a Ford Explorer car. There's a lot to be said before that, but I won't bore you with the details. But at this point, he's in my car. The meth is in my car. I'm at home with my kid. And he, with the other guy, are going to do a drug deal in a casino parking lot, which is fucking stupid, for one. There's too many cameras. Everybody's watching a casino anyway. And he got set up, which is fine. I'm glad he did, to be honest. And he gets arrested. They impound my car. They tear it fucking apart. He goes to jail, and he's waiting Fed charges because not only does he have methamphetamine in the car, a bunch of it, he also has an AK-47. He has a handgun with no serial numbers. So this is a federal crime at this point. I get a call saying that he's there and that I should come get my car. I'm worried that if I go get my car, I'm going to jail. But he had my car. I was at home. Everybody, my parents would attest to that. And if I wasn't, they would have said, my parents aren't the people they're going to, hide me if I'm doing wrong,
Sure.
So for the grace of God, he goes to jail. It was probably the best thing. I think I would have ended up dead had he not.
How long did he get?
13 and a half years.
Wow. And you never saw him after that?
No, I actually did. What was crazy is he wanted me to go collect his debts to get him out. He wanted me to go collect his debts because, he's in jail and he wants me to get him out of jail. And so I start doing that because I love him. I was dumb. But as I start doing that, I find out for sure, even though I had an inkling that he was cheating on me, I find out for sure. The fucking stripper tells me, yep, we were fucking. All right, cool. His closest buddies. Yep, he was stepping out on you. And I don't know why, because blah, blah, blah. Well, now they're trying to get what he left behind, right? So for a while, he'll call me from jail, come help me, put money on my books, blah, 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 come see me. When I get my car back, I find that the police did a shit job. Let's be real. They left a bunch of dope in my car that they didn't find. I don't know how they fucking didn't. I don't. I mean, so honestly, one of them, so I found like, the Altoids mints. He had a case, like a big case of that full of dope. And I went and sold it and kept the money for me because damn it, I deserved it. You know what I mean? My parents, though, found a fucking baggie full of shit.
Right.
And I was like, son of a bitch, I'm fucked. And I was like, whatever, I don't need it. Flush it. And they did. And I didn't need it. But in my brain, I was like, I could have made a shit ton of money off of this shit.
Sure.
And my brain wasn't, I didn't really want to do it. I really could have made a lot of money off of it. But when I finally had enough evidence, I actually went and saw him in jail one time. And while I was there, he tried to whip out his dick and fucking jerk off because he could finally see me. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't think I've ever told Dave this. But I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Put that fucking back in. I said, that is not why I'm here. And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, listen, I need you to tell me for sure. Did you cheat on me? I said, and don't fucking lie this time because I fucking know. And he goes, you're right, I did. I said, all right, then take a good look at my face because this is the last time you'll ever fucking see me. And I walked out. And that was the last, well, I thought that might be the last time I'd ever see him or talk to him. Years later, I mean, we can go into, but years later, right before I met Dave, he actually he got out of jail and reached out to me and he's like, oh, I'd love to have coffee with you someday. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Nope. because I think you'll probably kill me. You know what I mean? But and he reached out one more time, and I was like, no, I'm gonna hold that. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, so that's how that ended.
Okay. Okay, we've got one message on the screen there real quick, Sammy. It's it's Wendy. She said, "Holy shit, seriously, holy fucking shit." So she's taking back and right on, fucking holy shit. Come on, Sam, I can't believe you're put in these situations.
I mean, wow. I lived 10 lives before I hit 30, I gotta say.
Yeah. The amount of growing that you do from these things, though, is just phenomenal, though. So it's, you know, look, let's look at the one example when he came out around, at least after 10 years from him being in there also, right? He's reached out to you and you're like, you know, you've grown up, you're more mature, you know the fucking outcome. You're like, no, fuck no, and done, right? But had you been younger, you may have met up with him. Exactly, right? And so that's what the growing and experience that comes from that.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought I was at the start of the story when you started talking about him, I thought he was the father of your second child, but he's not.
No.
Okay.
So after that, okay. So I've already known him. He was my best friend's uncle. So I stopped being friends with him at dating this guy. So shortly after guy goes to jail, I go to my friend and I say, hey, I was a dick. I should have not been your friend. I'm sorry. Can we be friends again? So I started hanging out with my soon-to-be ex-husband. We started hanging out a lot. We started doing, and at this point, I'm really wrecked. Not only is my daughter dealing with epilepsy, and I've been there for her, but now I've got this boyfriend that's cheated on me and is in jail. And I'm done with him because he fucking cheated on me. So my ex-husband now goes, let me catch you. Let me make you better. And
I'm there for you in those hard times, baby. Yeah,
exactly.
Like one of those easy target. Let's move in here. She's vulnerable.
Right.
Let's get it.
Right. So we start hanging out. We're still only friends. But I really start, because I'm kind of in that mode, I'm now at the point where I'm not such a weekend warrior. Now it's more, you know, where it was maybe Friday through Sunday. Now it's, you know, Wednesday to Sunday, and now it carries over into the week. And now I'm like, fuck it. My mom and dad are good to my kids, so she's fine. She's safe. I don't have to worry about that. Let me go fucking whatever. So I'd go hang out with him. And at the time, so he has, at the time, his son at the time was 6 or 7, my daughter's brother. And they're living in the basement of a guy who's now in jail. And he, basically, I don't know, it's just this whole last thing. So we started hanging out and, you know, more often. And, you know, one day we literally had, I don't know. He used to let me tag along to all of his dope deals, which was kind of fun. I wasn't anything. I wasn't collateral. I was kind of the muscle, which was kind of silly. He'd be like, yeah, whatever she says goes. So I had some empowerment now. Within all of this, there was a couple of times my uncles, I talked about my uncles before. My uncles also did dope. And honestly, at first, this was something we could bond over. Now that I'm an adult, now I can do these things with you. Well, one time I was hanging out with my uncles, and there was another guy that was a dealer, and they said, hey, you should hang out with him, blah, blah, blah. Little did I know, they had prostituted me out for fucking dope. They promised this dope dealer that I was going to fuck him, and he in turn would give them dope. And I get out, and I thought this guy generally liked me, and this, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, that's fine. I mean, I knew what he did, but it wasn't a thing. I wasn't thinking that. I didn't want his drugs, you know what I mean? At that point, I thought, you know, he was kind of a cool guy. And I get out, and he whips his fucking penis out. And I went, what the fuck are you doing with that? He goes, oh, I thought you knew. And I went, nope. You better take me back, and let's let them know they're not getting shit. There was a point with my my now ex-husband that, I mean, I don't know. There was plenty of times. But long story short, I had gone out. I'd been home for a while. And I had gone out. It was one of those times I was not feeling so good about myself. I was going to just go see my friend, and we're going to have a good weekend. Well, my parents had had enough because I was going down a fucking slippery slope. Boy, that was not easy to say. I was going down a fucking bad road, and they came and got my car. They knew where I was. They came and got my car. And my ex-husband, we weren't even dating at the time. He had just gotten a car. So we're like, fuck it. It's fine. It's fine. Well, that car got repoed. So now we're homeless. And we're like, what the fuck do we do? What we do is he knows a guy that fences cars. And he goes, hey, we need a car for at least a night. You know, if you can loan us a stolen car. And we get this car, you can start it with a fucking screwdriver. And we stole the stolen car. And I lived in a car for a month with my not even at the time boyfriend. Just a guy that had said he was looking out for me this whole time.
Can I ask? So you were living at your parents' before that, though, but they kicked you out then when they took the car back because you're going down the slippery slope?
They sure.
And this guy
did.
had no place to stay, but he wasn't staying at your parents' house with you. He was just a guy that you were hanging out with, but he didn't have a place himself. He was living in his car already.
He actually was staying with the girl that introduced us, my friend at the time, but we weren't friends anymore. He was staying at her place, his niece, and she had kicked him out the same time my parents took my car back. And yeah, we ended up living in a car.
So I've got to ask this, what made you not go, fuck this guy, I'm going back home to my baby. Mum, Dad, I'm so fucking sorry. Keep the car, but I'm back home to see my kid. Because I assume that your kid was staying with your parents at the time then, right? So what stopped you from doing that?
Pride. I was mad. And honestly, I got to say, them kicking me out of their house was the best thing they ever fucking did for me. It made me grow up, but it took me a minute. It wasn't immediate. I was in the moment, and I was, during the time in the car, we slept in the car. We drove somehow he would do enough dealing to keep gas in the car, cigarettes, dope, whatever we needed at that point. But the times we did sleep, we'd sleep in the car. The guy that we stole the stolen car from, he said he found us one night sleeping in it and just decided not to do anything because we obviously needed it more than he did. So within all of that, I ended up here in Omaha, right around 4th of July. There's a concert at a park near my parents' house that we all go to. So I went with them. And my dad was like, you should come home, blah, blah, blah. But a little bit prior to that, I guess I skipped ahead. Sorry. I'm trying to think of it in my brain. A little bit before that. No, it was actually that night. I had gone to that with my parents and my ex-husband. I'm trying not to say his name. He dropped me off. My dad yelled at him, but that night he picked me up in our stolen car after it was all done. And we went to a public park to, smoke some dope at the time. And we're sitting in the car smoking dope, and parks close down at about 11 o'clock here. And if you're past 11 o'clock, the police come in and they can tell you to leave and they can search you. You know what I mean? They can. So we were there past 11 o'clock. Mind you, I'm 21, maybe 20, not even 20. No, I'm 21. I've got my hair braided in pigtails. I look like I'm 15. My ex-husband is 35. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we're sitting in this parking lot. They think he's fucking macking on a fucking underage girl. We have dope. I hide the dope where women can hide the dope. So we don't both go to jail. He had a warrant and he gets arrested. The guy who stole the stolen car was so good at stealing cars, they couldn't trace it as a stolen car. So he's in the backseat of a police car. Yeah. He's in the backseat of a police car yelling, "Don't say anything." I'm like, "I got this. I'm not saying shit." They come up to me and they say, "Okay, he's got a warrant for a failure to appear. He forgot to pay a ticket. You can take the car." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "I can." Yeah, it came back. We couldn't, we couldn't get a definitive if it was stolen, so you can take the car. I'm starting it with a screwdriver, mind you. A screwdriver. And I fucking drive away. So I go to a place that we had been staying periodically, and the guy was pretty heavy into like dealing, and his parent, the guy that I went to's house was dealing and whatever. And I said, "Hey, Steve," or fuck.
S. We'll call him S.
Yes. S is in jail, and it's not dope charges, but I didn't get arrested, and I still have what we had. Let me get what I have, and here's my payment for, please let me stay here so I don't have to sleep in a car by myself. That guy ended up taking the stolen car at one point, and while he was doing a deal, like somehow the front seat ended up going away. I don't know. There was a whole lot of shit. So after that point, I do end up going back home, and I was there for about 2 weeks, and I loved being there with my daughter. It was wonderful. However, my parents were, and again, they should have been. I would have been. They were like, on me, blah, blah, blah. They should have been. I was an asshole. I was gone. I had lived in a car.
You needed something to slap you in the fucking face and say, "Wake up, girl. You got a kid
exactly.
here." We're your parents. Like, what are you doing with your life?
I was an asshole. Yeah. So at some point, I convinced them to let me take my car again. And I go meet up with my ex, or my, at that point, not even boyfriend. And they end up finding me again, and they take my car, and we are left with nothing. We walked for 2 days, and finally he had called his mom in Branson, Missouri, and said, "Hey, he goes, I got to tell her I'm dating you, otherwise she won't bring you down here. And he goes, I'm dating this girl. We're out on the street. It's my fault, blah, blah, blah. Can you pay for a bus ticket down there?" And I literally had the clothes on my back. And I remember it to this day. I was wearing a Tommy Hilfiger jean dress that buttoned up the front, and that was the only thing I had. And I moved to fucking Branson that day.
Okay, so just a quick check-in now with your parents. I know obviously they're upset, probably disappointed, but to have probably such a good behaved girl growing up, from the decision you wanted to be a bad girl to let loose and be free. What's their? I mean, I know the reaction. They're not happy, but in what way are they not happy? They're grilling you all the time. Are they heartbroken? Is there a lot of frustration and anger and fighting when you go on at home, or is there like people ignoring each other? What was it like?
Heartbroken is, and then I get it. Heartbroken is how my mom described it. My mom said, "When you were born, I had this vision of you, and I knew where you were going to go in life. I didn't know exactly, but I had this life planned out in my head because I love you, and this is who you are. And then you didn't do it, and I'm heartbroken. I'm mourning the thought of the person you could have been." And she told me this at that point. It was at that moment. Not at one of those moments in the whole time, probably before I left the second time. But and I gotta say, as a mom, I get it. I've apologized to them more times than I care to admit, because my oldest has put me through some shit too, and I feel like I brought it on myself.
Okay. As a father, I totally get it too. What she's saying, like, same thing when my son was born. I think it's not like I want to plan his life out, but there's this automatic thing that comes over you where you feel like you've got the most special child in the world, who you've got this future plan for to be and nurture and teach and do all these things. But then as you grow up and have kids and they're little shits and they do all these things that drive you crazy, it doesn't quite turn out to be that way, right? And he's only 7 now, but whatever he wants to be is what he'll be. I think he's got the potential, whether he takes it or not. I understand. So I understand where your mother was coming from with saying that. And I guess her telling you that was to let you know, maybe that was like a last straw to grasp you, let you know just how much she was disappointed because of how much she loves you,
Yeah.
So, okay, fascinating that. So let's move on a little bit from there. You've now moved away with the bus ticket with only your Tommy Hilfiger dress on. What's next?
My mother-in-law at the time, my ex-mother-in-law, she welcomes me in with open arms. We get down there, she buys me clothes more clothes than, again, it's cheap clothes, but I don't care. I'm grateful because, I have nothing right now. And I start a new life down there, and initially it starts off pretty rocky, still in the same game, because there's a lot of people. If you know anything about meth, 417 is the area code for Branson and Springfield and down there, and that's kind of the meth capital of the United States. To be honest, a lot of people do it down there. There's a lot of places to make it, to cook it. There is different types down there. So we went in from, it was just crazy. So initially we started off doing stuff. There's people out there that cooked it and whatever. However, we ended up getting jobs down there, and I stopped doing it and started making a life for myself. I had gone to travel agent school prior to that, so I did that down there. Down there's a very tourist town. So I actually sold travel packages for one of the resorts down there. In all of that, about a month after we moved down there, my ex-husband looks at me and goes, "I know we're not even dating, but maybe we should." I was like, all this time I'm like, no, I'm not really into you. It is what it is. You're too old for me. And I'm not really that attracted to you. I didn't really say that to his face, but that's what I was thinking. And that's bad for me to say, but at one point I was like, fuck, I moved down here with him and his parents brought me in. I guess I probably should try it. So we start dating, and it's always weird, right? It's always fucking weird with him. But at that point, he really is my best friend. I do really get along with him. I understand him. From up until now, he has been the person who wants me to be better and doesn't want me to get shit on by other guys and blah, blah, blah. Little did I realize he was one of those guys kind of shitting on me at the time. At the time, he has built himself up to be the best good friend ever. And so I was like, yeah. And I remember my mom saying the reason she's with my dad is because, they're best friends. So I start dating him. And then within a few months, he asked me to marry him. And I said yes, because at this point, I have no other fucking options. We're together. We've been through all this shit together, and we get married. We get married October 19th of 2003.
Okay. And how old were you when you got married?
I was 23.
23. All right.
Almost 24. Yeah.
And so all this shit sort of slows down at the least, with you trying to move on with your life and get a job and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years goes on and you have your second daughter.
Right. So, right when we moved down there, let me back up real quick. My dad came to me and said, let me at least just I don't want to adopt your daughter, but at least my oldest, at least give us guardianship over her, because right now you're not there to take care of her. And I said, you're right. I'm not. I absolutely am not. I'm not ready for this right now. Please take her for a moment. I'll be back. So they just had guardianship of her. That was the hardest fucking decision I ever made in my life. Because in my head, I thought if they just give me a chance, I think I could. But I knew I couldn't. And I knew I couldn't. I was not ready. I wasn't in the right place for me. Meaning I couldn't be a good mom if I didn't know where I was going. So again, they're the best people I could ever think of to hold her for a moment for me. And then when I get back, they'd be there to say, here you go. Right. That was the hardest day of my life. So I said, Mom and Dad,
Can we just stop there for a second? I want to ask you, nothing really changes from what was happening at the time. You still weren't seeing your daughter. They were still in good hands with your parents. It was more of a decision of the kind of power of the decision that was going to your folks. It was the best decision, but what was hard for you? Was it the realization of the situation you were in?
Yeah, it was me realizing I fucked up. It was realizing that I wasn't ready to be there for her. It was me knowing that they could make sure she had the medicine she needed because she has epilepsy. I couldn't deal with that at the time. If I'm just starting out, I mean, can I provide that for her? I mean, it was the point of I needed to get myself right. But it was still hard because, I mean, I love that baby girl more than life. And even though I wasn't showing it so much, I still did. I mean, I still do. It's just that I wasn't grown up enough yet, This is dumb. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You made me cry. Now we're even. You made me cry on your show.
I know. Fuck you, Rock.
Take the moment. That's fine.
No.
It's of course. I mean, we love our flesh and blood more than anything, and really, anyone listening that's a kid out there with it, your kid that's listening to this, they just don't understand until we have our own kids. They just don't understand the love that you have as a parent for your kid. You hear people say that all the time. You hear it. When you have your own kids, you'll know, but you really just don't fucking know until you do. There's something about part of your creation that's out there, and like you said, even though you weren't acting like it at the time, it didn't mean that you didn't feel like it, for sure. And I think it's important for, if your daughter listens back to this or anything, that she actually witnesses these moments of how upset you are now as a mature adult making those decisions, because that's one of the hardest decisions to make, to have to let your kid kind of go. I mean, your kid's still there, but kind of go, because you're choosing the better life for them out of the love that you feel than your own selfishness, right? That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
So, smart decision. We have a message real quick before we carry on. 2, 3. We have,
Okay.
Sorry.
While you play the messages, I will be right back.
Okay. Well, they're going to be for you, so I'll hold for a tick. Just holding for Sam. Anyone does want to send any messages through on Instagram, you can click the clickable link on Fireside under the fortune cookie. That will take you to Instagram. Leave a pre-recorded message and I'll be able to play it for Sam. She's just going to take a moment, and then I'll play the messages on the screen. There are 3. Okay, I'm just reading it. I'll read it back out to Sam, Dave. I hate dead air time. I really do. Somebody leave me a message. There we go. We've got no sound. No sound, Dave. Can't hear it. Can't hear a thing, but Dave's on the camera for the visual aspect. Thanks, Dave. Why is there no sound? Yeah, the headphones. She's got the headphones. Okay. This is the man that loves it unconditionally, I must say. Here we go. No sound at all.
So sorry.
Sorry,
That's okay.
she had the.
Gotcha. Okay,
It
we're back.
was in her ears, and she needed to flush the toilet, so she didn't want the naked
So
gun
sorry.
moment. So. But I just wanted to say hi to you, Rock. You're my boy.
Hi, Dave. How you doing, man? We're just
All right,
getting
right
to
on.
the
Gotta go.
story.
Yes.
All right, brother. Thank you.
So sorry.
Okay, no worries. If that's you going to the bathroom, I've been holding on for myself for a while, but we still got some time to go, so we'll figure it out. All right, we had a
Yeah.
couple of messages. That was one with Diana saying right decision in time. Diana also sending love and sad faces, and then we've got Dave who says, I totally missed the last half hour because I was bonding with your youngest sweetheart. We both agree that she is the best kid and you are the best mum. So there you go. There's a
Aw.
message from Dave and your daughter.
That's awesome.
Okay. So, sorry, I very much left where we're at there.
Branson.
The decision
yeah.
that was made to, yep. Okay. So, all right. So that's at 23. That's at the age of 23.
20. I got married at 23 to my ex-husband. Yeah. A year almost exact. I got married October 19th of 2023 and had Alexandra, my youngest, on October 26th of 2024. So, or 2004. You know what I mean? Jeez Louise. I can't
2004,
fucking talk. Yes.
Okay.
2004.
No worries.
It's been a day.
Let's go into that.
Okay.
Let's go into that. I want to go into the part where your youngest daughter's born.
Yes. So shortly after I got married, we had been clean for a long time, and he was a manager at a call center down there. I was booking, I had a job where I was a travel agent for basically down in Branson, there's a lot of timeshares. And what they do is if you don't buy the timeshare, you buy into a travel club where you can get the cheapest travel. Well, they hired me to figure out the cheapest travel for people on their plan. And literally it was me going to fucking all the cheap travel sites and figuring out the best ones, but I was still scooping most of the people who were in there. So I made the salespeople a lot of money. So then at my bachelorette party, a gal that worked for my ex-husband had some cocaine. And she was like, hey, try this. Well, it wasn't all cocaine. It was cocaine and meth. But we did it that night because we were drinking a little bit and we wanted to not drink. And I guess her boyfriend was the dealer. He actually was a cook. So leading up to our wedding, he had given us some dope, and we were, after the wedding, we had taken some time off, and we had gotten to the point where we didn't want it anymore. We were done. And we'd finally smoked the last of it, and all of a sudden we get a knock on our door, and it's the fucking dealer again. And he said, hey, if you want us to make some money, I got you. And he brings out a fucking gallon-sized bag, 3 of them, of crystal meth. And he goes, this is my breakfast. This is my lunch. This is my dinner. So we go on a run. I say we go on a run, which means that we go on a run where we're starting to make money. I lose my job on purpose. He still has his job. So when he's at his work, people are calling me. We're making deals. I'm selling it out of our house at the time. At one point, my ex-husband pretty much ODs on it because he was dared to take a spoonful of this pretty much pure crystal meth at the time. He eats it and he about dies that night. Going forward, there were some people down there. There's a lady named Janet and her boyfriend named Troy that they said if they ever broke up, one of them would be dead. Well, we stopped doing it for a while, and I find out I'm pregnant. I'm like, all right, I'm done. And I go, I think I want to move back to Omaha because I want to be around my parents. I'm having another baby. I'd like to be around my other daughter. We would come up and see the kids almost every other weekend. So it's not like we weren't up here. I mean, I was seeing her all the time. I was in her life. It's just I wasn't there constantly. But I'm like, you know what? This is it. I'm done. I'm over it. And the weekend that we moved back, Janet and Troy had broken up, and when they were together, they said if we break up, one of us is going to end up dead. So the weekend right before we moved back up here, there was a car chase and a fire that was set. And what had happened is Troy had paid off a kid who was hooked on dope to go burn up where Janet was, and she was already with somebody else, and he had kids, and he set this place on fire and murdered her and the kids that ended up burning in the fire. The kid, the cops figured out it was her, got a call really quick, so the kid led them on a high-speed chase, and he ran into a gas pump as to not go in and actually have to give testimony, and the kid died too. And we knew at that point, and literally it was the weekend we were leaving to come back up here, and I knew at the time that it was Troy that made it happen, and it sucked because even though Janet was fucking gone. She was somebody who shot dope, used a needle. I mean, she was fucking looped, but she had the sweetest soul. You could see it. But I knew it was Troy. It was Troy that actually set it in motion. And we were like, we've made the best decision. It's good that we've come back. We're going back, and I'm never doing it again. My ex-husband at the time, my husband at the time wasn't quite ready to give it up. And I said, well, that's fine because I'm pregnant with our daughter and I'm never going to do that again. You do what you want to do, but I'm going to stay clean. So, we moved up here. My mom and dad were pissed that I got pregnant again.
I bet they were. Yeah.
They were.
They're thinking they're looking after your one kid and then now you're having another, and they're probably thinking, but not understanding the future of what's to come, like to how you are today, right? But at that time, they're probably going, Christ, what the fuck?
We're going to have to get care of another one. Not knowing that I had, then again, even if I had said, I've made the decision, I'm not ever doing drugs again, they would have not believed me. I wouldn't have believed me at the time. You know what I mean? Sure. It was easy to quit when I was pregnant because I have this other life that I'm looking after. But I mean, I don't fault them for not believing that I wouldn't stay away from it, but I did. So I had her October 26th of 2004.
Okay. What happens after that? So you've got your second baby. Where are you living? You're living with your now second husband. Mm-hmm. He's still using. Did you get to have your first daughter back with you, or not really? She'll still stay with your parents?
So when we moved back, he ends up stopping using because I said that's, he ends up stopping using. And the whole goal when we got back is I was like, hey, my goal is to get Sabrina back. This is where we're heading. He has a son who is 11 at the time, who is living with his mom, his son's mom. Yet his son, once we move back, is with us most days. At this point, I tell him, listen, I'm working towards getting my daughter back because I need her.
How old is your daughter at this stage?
She's 4.5 when I have my daughter. She's almost 5. Or my youngest, okay. Yeah. So she's 4.5. And the thing is when we come back, I'm there for every first day of school. I'm still there for everything, but again, she's with my parents. but I'm working to get her back because damn it, this is not right. I need to be with my baby. And as we go through it, we do more and more for his son. He goes, oh, his mom, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I help the kid get through school because his mom says he can't spell. And I said, no, that's a cop out. Let's work on it. You know what I mean? I become such a mom to this kid that, I'm still now I'm a stay-at-home mom once we have our daughter, my youngest. I make dinners every night on time because if I don't have them on time, my husband at the time is pissed. If they're not homemade, he's mad. If you know what I mean, if his pants aren't ironed in the morning for him to go to work, he's pissed. Yet I keep wanting to get my daughter, and he was like, we can't give her the life your parents can. I don't know, we can give her a better life because I'm her mom. You know what I mean? They have more money than we do at this point, but I don't care. I'm her mother. I need to be with her. So ultimately, that and other things is the reason we are not together today, because he did not want my daughter.
So you guys split up after how long?
My youngest was 2, almost 3. Well,
Okay, so
she was 2 the first time. I left for 6 months and then came back thinking we could work it out. And we couldn't, and then I left again.
Okay. So when you split up, what happened? Did you move back with your parents? Had things been mended then? Did your parents see the change in you now that you had your second daughter and you were making an effort with your first daughter more?
Yes and no at the time. So when I first split up with my ex-husband, I had no job, and literally I just moved in and was kind of like, I didn't have a car. So they were like, you need to do something, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I still have these little babies. But it was good to be there around because we all lived under the same roof now. Now I have both my kids, you know. It was wonderful. And then I go back to my ex-husband after about 6 months. And I told him, I was like, I need a car. I'm going to get a job. I need to feel like I'm doing something. And because I was so much younger than him, he treated me more like a child, his own child, than his partner. And that was a big thing. His son, his son should have come first. But when it came to my daughter, she didn't. So it was, there was not a good dynamic there.
It wasn't putting the kids first. It was putting his kid first and then you all in the back foot. Yeah.
Right. And I was not even a partner. I was, I was more like a child. So I had gone to my parents again and said, hey, I do want to leave him again. I think it's for real. I know it's for real this time. I went back just for our youngest, I felt like it was okay, and they said, okay, well, if you leave him again, you need to have a car and you need to have a job. So I pushed him for me to get a car, a cheap one that I could pay off on my own. And then I went and looked for a job. So I did. I got a fucking job. It was great. I got a job at Shoe Carnival here in Nebraska. It was the first one open in Nebraska. And it was just coming in, and they hired me as a lead. And literally the night I heard that I got the job, I told him I was leaving him. And I called my parents. I said, hey. Oh, he was upset. He was waylaid again. He just didn't understand. And I'm like, how do you not get this? Every time I had an issue or whatever, we would talk about it, and I was being too sappy or too emotional, and he didn't have time for it. So I don't understand why he didn't get I was leaving, but I mean, it is what it is. But so then I leave, and I got this job at Shoe Carnival, and it was great. We didn't divorce. It took us about a year I'm a procrastinator regardless. It took us about a year to actually finalize the divorce. And part of it was money. I couldn't afford a lawyer, and I wasn't going to ask my parents for money. But I started working at Shoe Carnival, and it was a good thing.
Okay, we've got a message on the screen. Dave's jumping the gun here a little bit, which is
Jeez Louise.
am I in this story anywhere? it doesn't matter if you are, Dave, because we're just about to end the podcast. So thanks everyone for listening. No, I'm joking. Let's skip forward to Dave a little bit because it is going to come up to we're 2.5 hours in, and I know there's more to go.
I'm sorry.
I know. No. Don't be sorry. I'm cool to continue if you are. I've seen you look at your watch a couple of times. I'm not sure if you're on a time restraint at all.
No, it's because I fucked it up for a minute. No, I'm good for a minute. I've got I could go to another 20 minutes or so. If that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine for me. I'm cool if you're cool. So, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Dave. Let's talk about when you met Dave. I know a little bit about your story from here on about meeting Dave, but not in full detail. Well, I think I know a bit there. It's a little soppy. I see you guys, and you guys love the shit out of each other. I love that you guys love each other. It's so nice. I don't envy it in a negative way. I think it's just fantastic, and I don't have what you guys have. You know, I love my wife and everything, but you guys are so like, God, Sammy, nice. You know what I mean?
We're sickening, right?
It's sickening in a good way, right? But I want to know how you guys met each other. I believe it was at a club where you met each other. Was it?
It was at a dance club. It was at a country dance club. I had gone to a Jason Aldean concert. I'm not a big country fan, but I went with my friend, and we thought, well, let's go country dancing afterwards. So we went to the country bar here. I get in there, I'm dancing, I'm line dancing, I'm whatever dancing. As you know, a whole thread of my life, I like to dance.
And she's a hell of a singer, folks. She's a hell of a singer too, but we haven't touched on that much. But yeah.
Thank you. So I'm up dancing on the dance floor, and here comes this guy in a Jacksonville Jaguars pullover, and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? He does not belong here. However, I'm intrigued, and I think he's very good looking, and I'm like, who is this?
Was he one of those like corny guys that goes, everybody, the guy with 2 thumbs is here, and they're like, which guy? And he's like, this guy. Was he like
kinda,
doing that?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, one of those guys. I can picture him doing that.
But it turned out that the friend that I had gone to the concert with is somebody Dave had known for 10 years prior. And so he sees me dancing. I see him walk in, and he sees me walk over to the gal that I had come, or my friend. And he goes, holy shit, I've known this girl, but I want to know the other girl, meaning me. And he goes and sits down, and he goes, hey, what's up? And she's like, holy shit, I'm here with Sam. You should actually meet. And when she introduces us, she goes, have you met Dave? I'm like, nope, never. She was like, I really don't know why I never thought about this, but he likes Star Wars too. And I was like, well.
No, he doesn't like Star Wars Part 2. He likes all the Star Wars as well, is what she's trying to say.
Yes. No, I'm actually a bigger fan than Dave is. Let's be real. I am actually a bigger fan of Star Wars than Dave. But yeah, that night we started talking, and we had gone out and smoked together. It was wonderful. And at the end of the night, I go, hey, can you 2-step? And we're dancing, and I'm putting my moves on him. You know, I am literally putting every move on him. And he leaves me in the middle of the dance floor, which it's okay. Remember that message he left earlier? Also, but that message he left earlier with our neighbors, Anne and
oh yes.
So Anne is the girl he was dating, who was working the door.
Oh, right. And while you happen to be conveniently busy on a podcast, Dave is sitting back with the neighbors and
no,
some
it's okay.
kid in the background.
Actually,
Dave, what are you doing?
I love her and her husband.
I'm joking.
I love her and her husband. No, it's funny because for a long time we both didn't like each other, but now we're actually really great friends, and it's just kind of funny how it all happens. But he leaves me on the
happens
dance
funny
floor.
because it's like when you end up with somebody, right? Isn't it funny? You always hate their last ex, but the exes before, I don't know, for me, it's like, it's whatever. It's the very last one. It's the most recent one. And it probably feels the most threatening, but I think as time goes on, it's like, nah, like, I don't know, for my wife, we're not jealous of each other, which is good because a lot of my relationships in the past were, and it was like, can't be speaking with them and stuff, but we are just really cool with that. So it's one thing I think that makes our marriage work is that we just don't have jealousy, which is cool.
Right.
I'm not saying
I mean,
never, but like it certainly doesn't really exist.
a little jealousy isn't bad. Let's
That's right.
be real.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I get it. Yes. But yeah, so that's how Dave and I met. The next night, literally, I met him for karaoke, and I didn't realize all of his whole family and friends were going to be there, and they were. And for some reason that night, I was bold and I knew what I wanted, and I let him know. I said, "You can take me home if you want to." He goes, "Well, I can actually drive you home to your house." I'm like, "No, fucker! I want you to take me to your home. I want to have sex with you." And he was like, "Oh, that's what you meant?" and he went and took a vote, for Pete's sakes. He voted for his whole friends and family whether he should go home to the girl that he was seeing from the other, or me, and they all voted for me. And the rest is history. We've literally have never parted since. So, I mean,
that's
we
beautiful.
have a little bit. Yeah, it's been great.
There's a bit more to that story. I mean,
there's a lot more to that story.
No, there's part I don't want to expose Dave in that story, but no, I mean, there's more to that story how you met. I mean, I heard the bits how you did fall for each other, and wasn't there something about, I could be wrong, you pursued him through a friend by getting his number or something like that, or did you not leave and then you had to get his number after or something?
Well, it's kind of. I kind of stalked him on Facebook. I didn't have his fucking number, but I found him on Facebook, and I was like, and I messaged him from Facebook, like, "Hey, we're smoking. You should come with us." And
remember me? Yes. And I thought Dave was the creep, because when he does stories on people on your show, How Was Your Day? He does a whole creep thing where he goes back to people's lives and tells them shit that they didn't even know. But you were doing that to Dave. You're finding him, stalking him on Facebook. So
I
kudos to you.
was. Yes.
And so you guys met each other and you start dating. And I know, again, the story that you guys got married on Star Wars Day, right? May the 4th.
May the 4th, yes, twice.
All right, May the 4th, and it was kind of like a quick decision as well, because you asked him something about if he would ever marry you, and he came back with the ring and said he would, and surprised you. Tell us about that story.
Well, here's the deal. He had said he was never going to get married again. And I told him, and I actually told his mom I was going to marry him someday. He's like, sweetheart, I don't think I'm ever going to get married again. And I kept pushing. I said, I want to be your wife. And I was not shy about it. And honestly, when I met Dave is when I found my power. I was like, I'm going to say how I feel. You're going to take it or leave it, whatever it is. And so I've been like, I want to be your wife. And literally the night before he asked me to marry him, he goes, what if I never ask you to marry me? And I was like, literally we're laying in bed. I'm like, fuck, I can't lie on this, because I'm not that person. I'm not going to lie about it. And I said, you know what, Dave, I love you. And if you never ask me to marry you, it is what it is. I want to be with you that much. And I will be here regardless. I'm not going to leave you just because you won't marry me and put a title on it. I said, but I really still want you to marry me. And he was like, okay. And literally I'm thinking, I fucking fucked this all up. He is never going to marry me now. Right? Literally the next night, he fucking asked me to marry him.
Wow.
It was the coolest thing.
And you thought he was joking, I heard at the time.
I did. He was like, he goes, all right, see, we're in our kitchen where Alex is watching a show as she had come home from dance. I mean, it was 5 years ago. So she's 17 now. She was 12. And she's sitting on the couch, and he gets on one knee and he asked me to marry him. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You're not fucking with me, are you? He's like, no, I'm serious. And then Alex goes, Dave, you're not messing with mom, are you? He goes, no, Alex, I would not lie to you. And she goes, and I looked at him like, now I know you're for real, because you're not going to lie to my kid. And sure. I said, well, yes. And she goes, yes. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yes. She was on the couch like, but I always told him, and he had asked the girls before he ever asked me if it was okay. Because I told him that's what I wanted. Don't ask my parents. Ask my kids. Because they're more important.
Deanna's left a message saying, "Take it or take it." That was the response.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a part that I did know, and I can see how lovely you guys are with each other. But one of the more deeper questions I want to ask is, how has Dave impacted the life of you and your daughters?
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. He has been amazing. When I first met him, literally our first date, my daughter stole my car, my oldest. And from that moment forward, he literally has been my partner. After she had run away and we got her back, my parents had gone out of town and I had to work. I was working 2 jobs at the time. And I was like, hey, can you pick her up for me? I just need some help and I have nobody else right now. And he's like, yeah, I'll absolutely pick her up. And that night he picked her up and they really connected. And he goes, why did you do that? And she literally opened up to him. And he really has been really great for that. Now she has, since we've had some issues with her, but she really had opened up to him. And honestly, with Al, my youngest, she was the hard one to win over. You know, she's got a great dad. Her dad, for all of my ex-husband's faults, he's an amazing dad to her. He really is. So she has this dad who still has a thing for me. And then I meet Dave. So at the beginning, she's like, oh, but you need to be with dad, whatever. And Alex didn't make it easy on Dave to be her step. And she goes to him all the time now for advice. If I don't give her the advice she wants, she's like, Dave, mom doesn't understand. Tell me what you think. No, she truly loves him and he truly loves her. And it's just been amazing. This is home. I mean, I've moved into Dave's home, but it's my home and our home. And it's just amazing. I could go on and on, but he's just...
Do a little bit, because I think he's quite a guy too. I think you guys are amazing. You've become great friends of mine. And I think, you're an amazing person individually. Dave's an amazing person individually. Together, you're fantastic. I mean, you're so giving and helpful and grateful to have people around you, friends around you. You're in a position where you can help people like your adopted son, Skinny, who's currently staying with you at the moment. I mean, you guys are just an open source of amazingness.
No, I mean, it is amazing. I've never met somebody who has wanted me to be who I am and not for me to count. He doesn't want me to count down. It's just fucking amazing. It really just is. And here he comes.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we bring him up, but at the same time, you guys are next to each other. Why not sit in together? Of course.
Yes.
Get your ass on, Dave.
Should I take it? Okay, take that one.
Hi.
Hi, Dave.
Can you hear him?
I heard you were talking shit about me, Rock.
You should probably sit on Sam's other side. That way you can, the mic will pick you up even better. Are you able to sit next to?
Mic's over here.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
That's right.
Or we can just
Switch me.
do whatever.
That's better. I don't know. I think the cardboard cutout of Dave looks a little bit better than the real life thing.
I was trying to pull it in, but we're here. So, now we're to me.
Yes.
Now we're to you, but we're not going to spend much time on you.
Can you hear us?
I got you. Can you hear us okay? Me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
So I was going to say, sweetheart, I didn't check any of your boxes.
You didn't.
Any of your boxes.
It's good that you did.
Your boxes were, I don't know, a motorcycle guy and a badass and a whatever.
Somebody who worked out all the time.
Yeah, somebody worked out and didn't know how to throw a football, but here I am.
The thing is, Dave, that list of boxes that she's got was decided when she was young, and it was all wrong. The reason you guys are lasting is because you don't tick those fucking boxes, right?
That's exactly
exactly what I keep telling him. Yes. Sorry.
So, Dave, tell us a little bit about your feelings for Sam. Now, I know you adore this woman so much. I know you do. I know that she adores you too. So I don't want to take away from each other because you're both so ingrained to each other. But even in the lead up to this interview, Dave, ladies and gentlemen, Dave loves his wife so much. He wants her to have this experience of interviewing. He wants being exposing her life to us. He wants her to have the best of everything. You can see that he just wants her heart to be full because you adore her so much. So just tell us a bit more about.
I do.
How Sam is your life?
I do, and I've known her backstory for a really long time. And I know that as you do what you do, your podcast, I know you have a bunch of great people on here. And you've had, you've had freaking mobsters on here, and you've had, so anyway, you've had a lot of great stories. But I also know she had a backstory which nobody knows from the married couple. I mean, you see the married couple, you see this awesome, amazing, cute couple that just loves each other so much, but everybody's got a backstory, and the backstory of us is what led us to be who we are. And quit looking at me that way. I can see you there. But what she's been through, I've known the story, but no one else has. I mean, everybody else sees us as this, oh, we're fun and we're funny, and Dave, you're dad jokes dude, and Sam, you're news story gal and whatever, but nobody actually really knows where we came from, and her story especially with her daughters and the shit she's been through with her exes. And I've been through a lot with my exes, and you know some of that as well. But everything that anyone goes through leads you up to who you are. And you can look in the camera. You don't have to pay. You don't have to.
You're good.
But it's what brought us to where we are today. And she said, from what I just heard a bit ago from the other room, was that she said how we're partners, and we really, really are. One of the first arguments that we ever got into, one of the first fights we ever got into, she started to back down. And she went, okay, you're right. And I'm like, no. No.
Because he knew he wasn't right.
No, hold on. And I'm like, hold on. I might even, no, I never called her bitch. But I was thinking in my head, I was thinking, bitch. I never called her that. I actually probably
No, I know what you mean.
Really
back up, second bitch.
Like, no,
yeah.
This is no, but this is not who you are.
I know what you mean.
The person you are stands up to me. You've been through enough of crap, and I've been through enough of. Okay, we can say shit. Sorry, Wendy, if you're
Don't
here.
apologize,
sorry.
bitch. Come on.
Wait, Wendy cussed earlier. I heard it.
Yeah, we're good.
And no, she told us, oh, you guys cuss a lot. And we're like, yeah, we do. It happens. But once I realized that she was my partner, it's been amazing. And she's not ever backed down to me. She doesn't back down to me. She is literally my equal. And above that, she is the better half. I'm the lesser half for a reason, and that's not a bad thing. She is absolutely the better half. And I've been through some stuff, but as you guys have heard, I haven't been through this. I haven't, and honestly, when I heard this the first time, some of what you guys have heard tonight,
I thought he might leave me.
The meth thing almost sent me over the edge. But she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. You are. And Thank you, Deanna. Anyway, yeah. And so then she says one day, I want a podcast, and here we are. I just fast
Go on,
forwarded.
Dave. It's a bit more of a story to that. But I want to ask before we go down the track of the pod. Let's get a, we got a couple of messages. We've got one from Skinny and one from Deanna. Here we go.
Yeah.
Look here, Rock. I'm not their adopted kid. I'm their adopted brother. Dave's my older brother. Sammy's my baby sister.
Fuck you, Skinny.
You, sir. You, sir, are a koala kissing prick. I love you. Love the show. Great show, guys. Love you, sis. Love you, Bubba.
Thanks.
You guys are great. Can't say enough about you, but and I think everybody on here pretty well knows how I feel about you guys. Anyway, love you guys so much, so much. And yes, Rock, they are sickeningly cute and mushy and all those things. It's terrible. But anyway, love you, Rock. Great show, man.
Thank you, Skinny. Dave, Sam, if you can just tell your son to sit in the basement and drink his moonshine. All right.
I already locked him down there.
Next, we've got a message from Deanna.
Just ask Sam if she knows how she likes her eggs now.
Yes!
Right?
I'd say fertilized, but
Deanna remembers that. Oh,
Just
well,
joking.
no, not anymore. That's also one of the reasons I loved her so much. She couldn't have kids anymore. I don't need more. I'm good.
all right. And we've got a message on the screen. We've got Deanna saying, y'all are so freaking adorable. So
Thank you.
all right.
Just go on.
I want to. I'm just keeping it on time for you because I think we're going to go touch over you 20 minutes, Sam, if that's okay. Maybe another 10 or so, right? So
It's okay.
okay. So your podcasting, you guys fucking rock. You have a killer show here on Fireside. You guys started off in stereo. I went back and listened to your first shows. You might have noticed me bringing up some old shows last week. I went back and had a bit of a listen.
Yeah.
No, nothing bad. Nothing bad. It's great.
No.
Like you guys get on there, and you had the intent to be the Happy Married Couple podcast, right?
Yeah.
Now you've developed from stereo over to Fireside. Someone gave you a hot tip to come to this particular platform, and it's the best thing ever. Like
I
just
don't know
think it's
who
fucking
that
awesome.
was.
It was Paul Vato. And he is our next
No.
guest on.
Wasn't he listening? He was here. For
He was here. He'll be back. He'll listen to Paul Vato, our next guest on How Was Your Day, by the way, coming up Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central.
Stop it. He's already plugged our show.
Never mind. God,
We plug away here. We plug away. No, but you guys have really grown until the point where you guys have a pop and show. You've got messages flying in. The vibes are high. I love it. Always have loved it. You guys had me on initially as a guest last year on your show, and it's just grown from there. I think you do a fantastic job. You give these fun, bubbly interviews with some news into it, and just make the guests feel welcome. So I love that you guys do that. And now you've become featured Firesiders here on Fireside. So I'm just so proud to be rocking this place with you guys. You guys are fucking awesome. So
Well, thank you.
that show,
thank you.
again, when was it, Dave? I didn't quite catch the time.
It was 8 p.m. Central on Wednesday nights.
Every
Which is,
Wednesday,
I don't
that's
know,
right.
10 in Australia time, whatever.
It's 9 a.m. Thursday mornings here in Australia, and it's actually 2 a.m. in the UK on Thursdays. So there you go.
Hold please.
As we're starting to wind it up, I want to ask you both the same question individually. And Dave, think about this because I'm going to ask Sam the question first. So, Sam, how important and what was the importance of being interviewed today? Because I know it's nice to be interviewed, but it seems like you almost want to stamp the strong person that you are today by telling your story. Is that the case? And Dave, I'm going to ask you the same question about what was important for you to hear Sam's story out there today, because I can see that that's having an effect on you somehow. So Sam, you answer that first.
So I think the reason that I wanted to be, that it was important to be interviewed is that not many people, when they look at me, would see that the life I've lived, right? I mean, you look at me and you don't think, oh, she did meth and was held as collateral and whatever it may be.
I've lived some life. However, also why I wanted to, or why it was important, is to show that that doesn't mean that's it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be your death sentence because you fell into something like that. It could be your jumping off point. You know, yeah, it sucked. Yeah, it was a shit. Yeah, I feel bad about how my oldest daughter's life started, but I can tell you it didn't end that way. Or, you know, from the time where I left my ex-husband, it didn't stay that way. Me and the girls had such a fun time. You know, me being a single mom with those two girls, we would have dance parties, and I mean, and it was fun struggling through and working, you know, and doing things
figuring
the right
it out
way.
together. Yeah.
I can't hear you. I don't know why.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Half second delayed.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. I said figuring it out together.
Yeah, it was
With
great.
your daughters.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree that, like, knowing you and who you are today, and you know, being pretty close to you guys, would never have picked that story that you've been through like that before. So whatever it was that you went through definitely has shaped you into this awesome person. You can't tell. You just can't tell, because you've chosen to own it and be boss of that, and from that result, be the person you are. Now, I don't know if Dave can hear me. He probably can't.
I actually can.
Oh, you
jackass.
can. Okay. So I know that we, like I said at the start of this podcast, Sam and I meant to do this show for a while now. The timing was, as it was getting to the right time, became the wrong time because I was leaving Stereo, coming to Fireside. Then we wanted to get some momentum behind us. The time's right now. Along that way, you've checked in a couple of times. You know, you've dropped the hints that you know, it's like, you know, because everyone does want that interview, but you were like, to forsake yours to go to Sam. And it's like, you got to interview Sam. Don't worry about me. You've got to interview Sam. And it was never a no. It was just a matter of when. And that, again, that time is now. But I could see that the story coming out when you said before on the, you know, just reading your body language, that it was important for you to have Sam's story out there too, because only you knew that story. What was important for you for that? Like, what part of that was important?
Rock, the main thing that was important for me for the story was, all right, you are I would consider a great friend, and Skinny is, and all the people that we've met here, including Deanna and Dan and all the people in the audience, Charlie XL. But that's all I can see. And there's many more.
Okay.
There's many more. Sorry. That's all I can see. Uncle Eddie, Jared.
There's more.
Okay, never mind. I know how amazing my wife is. And you guys see us on a Wednesday, and you know, we have a show, I joke and we do whatever, but I know how amazing she is, and I know the rest of her story, and I know why she is who she is now and why she's my partner. I wanted you guys to see it. I wanted you to see it. I wanted the audience and everyone to know why I love her so fucking much. Sorry, I cussed. Jokes.
Cuss. Don't be a bitch, Dave. Just cuss.
Yeah, fuck it. Well, whatever. No, that's the main thing. And Deanna had her on her show a few weeks ago, and it was good. And I love Deanna's show, and I love Deanna, but it just didn't. And I'm sorry, I don't mean anything negative, because it was great. I love her show and I love what she does, but I just knew there was so much more. And you know what, Rock? You know what? You son of a bitch. Sometimes, God damn it, you're the one that brings everyone out and just all the stories that are beyond the surface. And I knew you'd somehow do it. And you did very well, brother.
just for the record, I know there's so much more too that we couldn't touch on. I know that people can't say their whole lives in a few hours, and just in yeah. I mean, you got for the most part out. I'm sure we covered, right? But I'm sure there's some more little bits and pieces there that we just time restrained. Okay, so, but I hear you, man, and Deanna does a great show as well, and her show's different about the laughing after trauma. So. Yeah, that's a different style. You guys do interviews too. Again, a different style. You have your guests on and you run through, you creepily dig around Dave like a freak and find out all this information that scares the shit out of how things I didn't even remember I said. But it's just great how everyone has their own styles. And for mine particularly, it's definitely a deep dive. It always goes for a few hours. It always is something that we have to take the time to unpack. And I just want to thank you guys so much for your friendship, number one, above and beyond the support that you guys have and we have for each other. Like, I love you guys to death. Just for the record, Dave, I knew how fucking amazing Sam was, but if it made you feel better that I knew that story as well personally and everyone else, then it's done now. And she's not dead now. She's here. Sorry, private joke for those that don't know.
No, they know. If they don't, stop over to Hours Your Day. It's every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central.
That's right. So, no, I just want to take the time to thank you guys so much. And I'm glad that we got that one done. It's been on my mind for a while. Excited to get this one done. And I only love you guys more from knowing that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rock.
You guys rock. Are there any final words that you want to leave the listeners with before we end the show?
Don't do meth.
Or do and don't let it rule your life. Sorry, no, don't do meth. I'm so sorry.
I love it.
Do or do not.
That's the laughter after trauma. That if you want to catch those shows, you can speak to them and tune into her.
I'm going to let you finish up with her, and everyone in the audience, we love you. Sam, you want to call out everybody in the audience?
No.
No? Rock, you want to?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. I also want to say Dan's dropped in, and thanks for listening, Dan. I actually wouldn't mind doing an interview with you too if you're free at some point. So I'd love to get on and run through some things. Okay, who's left in the listeners here? We've got Waitbot, our dedicated listener. We've got myself and Sammy, of course. Jocelyn, we've got Video Girl, Uncle Eddie. We've got Legends. We've got Worm. We've got Charlie. We've got Mr. Bombastic, The Real Skinny, Dave, Deanna, and Dan. So thank you guys for hanging for the show to listen to The Life of Sammy. And I call you Sammy. I don't know if other people do, but I love calling you Sammy. Yeah, it's like more of an Aussie thing here. So, yeah. So any last words, Sammy?
Yeah. My life did make me who I am, and you can't let your past failures define you. Probably my best day was when my dad said, "Hey, I have a job at the place I'm working at. I want you to apply." I've been there 11 and a half years now.
Oh, wow.
So going back to where I disappointed him and I didn't go on that trip, years later, he said, "Hey, I trust you enough to put my name on your name." And I've now been there 11 years. In this past year, I hit top sales for everything.
Wow, so, wonderful. Excellent.
He gave me my career, actually. I thought I had made it big when I worked downtown and in a corporation. So, I mean, just because you have some bumps doesn't mean it's going to derail your life.
I think you're resilient as fuck, and I think you've got so much potential in what we're doing here on Fireside and the like. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that you've won that award, the top salesperson as well. Yeah, your past doesn't define you. It's just made you resilient as fuck. Like I said, we're here to take over, baby, for this Fireside thing. So you guys do your thing because I love it so much. All right, I want a bit of a round of applause from the listeners because that's what the fuck is going to happen here. All right.
Plus, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince.
Exactly. I'm still looking for mine. So, no, I'm not really. My prince is Dave. So, all right. So where can we find you guys? You've got your own Instagrams and also your
right. So mine
podcast
is
Instagram too.
Sam I am. It's sam.iam or .I am whatever. 1979 or it's at IG. But the Married Couple podcast is the _married _ podcast or whatever. We're Dave
Married
does
Couple
all this
podcast
stuff
with underscores in between.
Yes.
Yes.
Dave does this way better than me. But Wednesday nights, Married Couple podcast here on
Okay,
Fireside.
so anyway, we're on every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central Time. Don't know what time that is in Australia. It doesn't fucking matter.
9 a.m.
Anyway,
Western Standard Time.
9 a.m. Western, whatever. Okay, and also the Married Couple podcast on Instagram, the _married _ podcast.
And you said 2 underscores.
That's it. Whatever.
Just look on any of the social media posts that I've posted, and I've put the guys' details there. So thank you so much. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's show, The Life of Sammy. Thank you, Sammy, again for sharing. Thank you, Dave, for popping on as well. Much love to you guys, and we'll see you all next time. If you want to look at this show or others, or if you listen to the replay, you will be listening to possibly on YouTube, where is the Rocstedi podcast, or on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere. Just Google Rocstedi, you'll find me. Thanks, guys. Absolutely. All the best. I'm going to bring up the weight bot.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
Oh, also on How Was Your Day this week is Paul Vato.
Nice.
Next week, we're going to have Rev. And the following week after that, we got the bike lady.
Awesome. And I think the bike lady just joined in. Laura? Yeah, she was. Yeah. She popped in. She popped out.
Popped in. All right.
Not a problem.
Love you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. All the very best. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all tomorrow. It's going to be 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'm interviewing Paul Farghese. He's an actor comedian. So if you're up for a laugh, I think he's an interesting character. So we'll chat to you all then. Cheers. I'll bring up weight.
Cheers, Rock. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Much love. I hate this too.